Well, good morning to you. It's 5 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We are sitting at 49 degrees with fair skies now. We're headed to 81 this afternoon. The Quarter Pounder is making a comeback at burger chain McDonald's after it was pulled off the menu at 900 restaurants over E. coli concerns. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
Available tools to confirm if onions are this. McDonald's says the FDA believes slivered onions from a single supplier, Taylor Farms, are the likely source. And we remain very confident that any contaminated product related to this outbreak has been removed from our supply chain and is out of all McDonald's restaurants. The FDA has yet to publicly rule out the patties. A spokesperson saying this weekend the FDA is using all available tools to confirm if onions are the source of this outbreak. For the time being, McDonald's has stopped doing business with Taylor Farms, which has removed its yellow onions from the market.
At least 75 cases have been reported across 13 states. One person has died. Nearly 24 people have been hospitalized. Told you about a Nashville jewelry store robbery on Friday. Well, today, 2 people have been arrested in Florida. 34-year-old Orlando Hernandez and 38-year-old Melanie Garcia were found in possession of the $1 million worth of jewelry, a large sum of cash, and a wig. The store owner said the suspects deployed pepper spray at the Dubai jewelry store in Nolensville Pike last Wednesday and scooped up jewelry, a $95,000 belt, and a bar of gold. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Here's Chuck Sievertson.
Trading was mixed Friday as companies continued reporting mostly solid earnings. The S&P 500 closed just slightly lower, down 2 points. It's the S&P's first losing week since early September. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 260 points. The Nasdaq Index rose 103 points for its 7th consecutive weekly gain. Both the S&P 500 and the Dow have been generally falling back from record highs set late last week. Markets have been more cautious amid worries that stocks have become too expensive. Higher Treasury yields, which make stocks less appealing to investors, added more pressure. Capital One Financial jumped over 6% after beating Wall Street's third-quarter financial forecasts. UGG footwear maker Deckers Outdoor climbed 10.6% after raising its financial forecast for the year. Technology companies L3 Harris Technologies rose 3.6%, and Western Digital rose 5.7%.
And stock futures this morning all pointing up. The Dow futures are gaining 194. NASDAQ futures are up 162. And the S&P futures, they're up 34 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Things are looking pretty good this morning. Just watch it on that I-40 southbound loop to exit 210. You've got just the left lane for traffic use this morning. The right lane remains blocked. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Information fueled,
opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
506, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Welcome on into your Monday, October 28th. I want to make sure that I got this straight. We have not had rain in like a long time. It's choosing Halloween night to rain? Really? Is that what I heard, Joan Jones?
That's awful. To be honest, I haven't looked. Let me take a look here.
Man, phooey on you, rain gods. Phooey on you.
Yes, it's supposed to rain Halloween night.
It is supposed to rain Halloween night.
It's incredible.
That's when it starts, yes.
All right.
We did get some rain in lovely College Grove this weekend.
I did too.
I got a little bit of sprinkle at my house, and my lawn was screaming more, more, more.
Oh, yeah.
As was my water bill. Anyway, whatever. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more during the 535 iteration of the Gang of Three Amigos, or the Gang of Three. And Joan, I'm going to put you right on the spot.
Uh-oh.
Johnny, I told Johnny earlier today that during the 535 Gang of Three, I'm going to put Joan Jones on the spot. And Johnny, you know what's odd? Joan, is Johnny is so tired of my crap, he didn't even ask. He didn't even ask what I was going to do. It's like, all right, whatever, Mandis. And off he goes.
Now, apparently somebody was in over the weekend. Your camera is...
oh, boy.
Yeah, it's way up there.
It is. My camera's askew.
Yes, it is. There we go. A little bit better. Can go up a little bit now.
Oh, whatever.
Sorry.
You know, the momentum of the show goes crashing because I have to adjust my damn camera. Hey, I want to play a piece of audio just real quick. This is how Donald Trump, I have so much news for you today. By the way, at 6:35, you want to stay close because Economist E.J. Antoni, of course, Fox News and so forth, we are going to do a bit of a deep dive on Donald Trump's tariff plan, and could he actually use tariffs to replace income taxes, federal income taxes. That is something that Donald Trump wants to do. We'll speak to E.J. Antoni at 6:35 here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So there's a lot. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I don't know if I've had this much audio or this much news in a long time. So, number one, we've got all the audio bites that I was able to get and pull from Trump's interview with Joe Rogan. And I got to tell you, that was an incredible interview. That's number one. Number two, we have Donald Trump and his big Madison Square Garden event last night. We have over the weekend, Beyonce. We'll talk about this at 5:35. Beyonce absolutely stiffing Kamala Harris. Did you hear what happened there at the Harris rally in Texas? A detail straight ahead on that. And just so much more. You've got incredible audio of J.D. Vance and him just putting the mainstream media in their place. I've come to a theory on J.D. Vance and why people really like watching videos of J.D. Vance. And it's because he is really good at putting the media in their place. And I've got an example coming up on Nashville's Morning News. As I said, there's just a lot of news out there today on the 28th of October. This is Donald Trump. I'm going to start with the ending. This is how Donald Trump wrapped up his epic, and I mean epic, rally at Madison Square Garden last night.
After all we have been through together, we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in the history of the USA. With your help from now until Election Day, we will restore America's promise. We will put America first, and we will take back the nation that we all love. We bleed the same blood. We share the same home, and we salute the same great American flag. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never, ever back down. And we will never, ever, ever, ever surrender. Together we will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. We're going to win, win, win.
And the crowd just goes absolutely nuts. I got to tell you that I've seen a lot of speeches by Donald Trump. This one was really good. This one was special, and this one was one for the ages. And for Donald Trump, I think that's how he ended his speech, his epic speech. I like how he began the speech when he asked a very simple question, and this is a question that you have heard before. You will no doubt hear again when he invoked the great Ronald Reagan.
And I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
No! And that's, of course, you can hear the people. They were fired up. I mean, this was, you had Elon Musk, you had Tucker Carlson, you've got, Vivek Ramaswamy. It was just all of the great advocates for Donald Trump and MAGA. So this is where we will begin today, because for me, I've been covering this for you for several weeks now, because you just heard Donald Trump. You just heard a couple of the just very brief excerpts of what the former president, possibly future president, had to say at Madison Square Garden. And it was all about MAGA, and it was all about great conservative values. Now, the media on the left, of course, and the Democrats, they are apoplectic, and yes, they are panicking. This was Tim Walz.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
You know, here's the thing. And I've got audio from MSNBC and just a lot of other places where they're all describing, because, you know, they all get their talking points. They probably, get the fax or the email or whatever it is. They're talking points. And they're all saying the same thing, that last night's rally at Madison Square Garden was reminiscent of the Nazi rally way back in 1939. And clearly, it was nothing like that.
Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany.
All right, so it's familiar refrain. You got this story from the Atlantic and all this. It's just, this is all they have. This really is, I kid you not, friends, this really is their closing argument, is that Trump is a Nazi and Trump is Hitler. Now, I've got some audio coming up that I've been looking forward to playing for you since I woke up this morning. It is the audio of a Nazi survivor, of a guy who, when he was 9 years old, his entire family was killed by Adolf Hitler. What do you think his reaction is to Tim Walz and Hillary Clinton and the media and Kamala Harris calling Donald Trump Hitler? What do you think his reaction is going to be? I've got the amazing audio coming up. It is 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Oh, all right. Well, you know what? Here's the great thing. I'm sure that at 5:15 on a Monday morning, everything is okay.
Just look out for some fog.
Just look out for some fog, which apparently there may be some fog in Joan's head as well, because she's not at her desk.
Okay.
Hi, Joan.
Well, hello.
How's the traffic, my friend?
It's there is a spot that's in trouble this morning. It's in Watertown, Sparta Pike, east of Statesville Avenue. There's an accident there involving injuries. But really, other than that, and I did see some fog on the roads this morning. It's not in my head. So just be careful as you're out there. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, Johnny, you know what I just heard from Joan? When I said her reaction to me saying maybe the fog is in Joan's head, and she said, just be careful. Yes. I think she's telling me just be careful.
I think so.
That's kind of what I'm feeling this morning.
Yeah, it could be. And, it's justified.
I didn't see any fog.
Thank you, Johnny.
Oh, they're ganging up on me. You know what? J and B are ganging up on me. That's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So making the rounds is this great audio. I just played you audio from Hillary Clinton, Tim Walz, and they're talking about how Trump is a Nazi and all of this other crap. Find the story of one Jerry Wartsky. Now, Jerry Wartsky is, as I just mentioned, he was 9 years old when his family was murdered by Adolf Hitler. And so he was at the rally last night. He was at the Make America Great Again rally last night at Madison Square Garden. And this is part of what he has to say about these accusations.
I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the death marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes.
94 years old, and he says my entire family was wiped out by Adolf Hitler, and I know more about Adolf Hitler than Kamala Harris would in 1,000 lifetimes. And this is what I've been saying all along. What I've been saying all along is that when these morons, these historically illiterate morons on the left try to talk about how Trump is like Hitler, what you're doing is you're sanitizing Hitler and the murderous ways of Adolf Hitler, and that only means that you are clearly anti-Semitic. And so Jerry Wartsky, he's still got the tattoo from being in the concentration camps. He's 94 years old, and he survived Auschwitz. He survived the death marches. And then he escaped to America 75 years ago.
For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
I love that. In case you didn't quite understand what he is saying, this 94-year-old Auschwitz survivor, a guy whose entire family was killed by Adolf Hitler, he says that Kamala Harris and the Democrats, they should apologize to people whose families were killed or impacted by Adolf Hitler. I would like a member of the mainstream media, I would like somebody who is covering Kamala Harris to ask her the question, do you owe the people whose families were impacted or killed by Adolf Hitler, do you owe them an apology? Because what you're doing is you are sanitizing what Adolf Hitler did when you compare him to Donald Trump. For politics. Because I can't imagine, do you think they really mean it? I'm going to ask you a question, you super texters. 615-737-9986. Do you really believe that they believe that Trump is Adolf Hitler-like? I mean, let's be honest. They've been saying this crap for like 8 years. They've been saying this. And for the life of me, I can't imagine that they're really that dumb. But maybe they are. And by the way, when Tim Walz and Hillary Clinton and all these other folks on the left, when they're comparing Trump's rally last night to what happened in 1939 in Madison Square Garden, they're calling the rest of us Nazis as well. That's ultimately what they're doing. So this is worse than being called the deplorable, I think. What's worse? Is it worse being called the deplorable, or is it worse being called the Nazi? I have no idea. I mean, we all kind of leaned into the deplorable thing, but I'm not about to lean into being called a Nazi. So, yeah, I would say that Hillary and Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, you do owe the survivors of Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler an apology. There's a great meme going around about how Donald Trump is the worst possible Hitler impersonator ever. We talked about this on Friday. As he is surrounded by, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu and others, and it talks about the Abraham Accords, moving our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, proclaiming that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. A very historically controversial move that Donald Trump facilitated. Donald Trump also shut down Iran's economy with sanctions. It was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris who came back and rescued Iran's economy so that Iran, of course, could fund the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah, etc. So not only is this accusation that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler historically inaccurate and ignorant, but it's just plain hateful and nasty and vitriolic. And Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, he says enough.
I had those terms hurled at me by some political leaders in the city, using terms like Hitler and fascist. My answer is no. I know what Hitler has done, and I know what a fascist regime looks like. The level of conversation, I think we could all dial down the temperature.
Yeah, especially the Democrats. To me, the lead up to this rally says more about Donald Trump's opponents than the actual rally says about Donald Trump, because he did repeat a lot of the same policy ideas that he has in the past. But the fact that the Democrats took a rally at Madison Square Garden and twisted it into their sick, twisted minds into this fascist Hitler-type rally tells you all you need to know about them.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
By the way, again, it was an incredible rally last night. Once it finally happened, Donald Trump did have a new policy proposal.
And I'm announcing a new policy today that I will support a tax credit for family caregivers who take care of a parent or a loved one. It's about time that they were recognized, right? They add so much to our country and are never spoken of, ever, but they're going to be spoken of now. Thank you all very much.
There you go. That is Donald Trump. And here's the deal. Do you know why the Democrats, and then I got to take a break, but do you know why the Democrats are obsessed with calling Donald Trump a fascist? The reason why the Democrats are obsessed with calling Donald Trump a fascist, and they want to call him, and they constantly do call him Adolf Hitler. The reason why they do that is because the answer to the question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? That answer clearly is no. And that's why they are very worried, and that's why they are so incredibly angry and vitriolic and hateful, and we'll see if that does have an impact on the polls. It is, and on November 5th in the election. It is 5:24 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. It is October, and that means that Halloween is just a few weeks away, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, they are celebrating by giving you some great deals on your HVAC and your plumbing. They are your Rude Pro partners, and yes, they are giving you 50% off of a furnace inspection and 20% off of any furnace repair work at the time of service. How about $300 off of an ultraviolet home treatment system installation? And remember the Beehive Club. As a Beehive member, you'll receive 3 annual tune-ups, 1 cooling, 1 heating, and 1 plumbing. Plus 10% off of all repairs, priority, front-of-the-line service, no overtime or holiday fees, and so much more for as little as $99. Now, I've been a Beehive member for years. I've had them install a new system, fix an old one, and maintain all my units as well. Outstanding customer service, and simply put, they do great work. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee HVAC. They are your Rude Pro partner. Call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-775-7833. 615-775-7833. Find them online, busybeehvac.com. Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 89.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Super Talk 99.7 WTN and Nashville's Morning News. Right now, we are bringing results for our clients using both our radio and digital assets. 2025 is going to be a huge year, not only here in Tennessee, but of course, across America. If you want to jump on board, again, we're offering great incentives. Find us online, 997WTN.com, and let's talk.
Good morning. It's 5:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. At 49 degrees right now, a mostly sunny day, going to 81 and dry again later on today. A large turnout in New York City for Donald Trump last night. Close to 20,000 showing up to see the former president speak in his one-time hometown. There were thousands more people waiting outside.
One of the biggest reactions from the crowd coming when Trump made this comment on immigration.
And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
Trump has promised mass deportations, which the American Immigration Council claims could cost up to $88 billion.
That's ABC's Perry Russum. Mr. Trump also reiterating his economic plans to end taxes on tips and overtime pay and vowing to make car loans tax deductible. In Nashville, police continue searching for a man who was caught on camera brutally attacking another man, 59-year-old James Sutton, in the intersection of South 5th Street and Russell Street in East Nashville. Sutton died of his injuries. He was found still lying in the street. This nearby neighbor tells Channel 4 the attack is a shock.
I walk around here a lot with my dog, and I've never had anything happen to me. I've never seen anything crazy like that. I feel like I'm generally pretty safe. I walk during daylight hours. But yeah, I'm concerned for other people living nearby.
Police are hoping the public can help identify the attacker. Some surfers found themselves playing lifeguard at a New Jersey beach when they spotted several fishermen get knocked off a jetty where they were standing and into some very rough waters.
Giant wave comes. There was 3 fishermen, and 2 of them got swept over the jetty. It's like, oh my gosh.
That surfer and others paddled out and rescued the fishermen, carrying them back to the beach on their boards. The surfers had been taking part in a surfing competition at the time of that rescue. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures are all pointing sharply up this morning. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 5:33 on WTN. Friends, if your family is obsessed with Wicked, like mine is, you're probably wondering how much streaming and memeing your internet can handle at your kid's next Wicked-themed sleepover. Well, Xfinity Internet is powerful enough to handle hundreds of devices, so you can get a magical connection with fast speeds and amazifying power even when everyone is online at the sleepover. With Wi-Fi that is truly thrillifying, one might even say that Xfinity engineers are secretly wizards themselves. Now through December 22nd, get thrillifyingly fast 150 megabit Xfinity Internet for just $35 a month for 12 months with no annual contract and free Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com to learn more and keep the magic going from your screen to the big screen. And see Wicked only in theaters on November 22nd. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra after promo. Regular rates apply. Currently $66 a month. Actual speeds vary.
Got some drop-off delays at the airport this morning. Careful there. Also, Watertown, Sparta Pike, east of Statesville Avenue, an accident involving some injuries. Also, some fog in spots on the roads this morning. Careful out there. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.537 Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into the gang of three. I'm Dan. Johnny's there. Jones here as well.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. You guys want to talk about how you two are like the walking wounded today?
Gosh.
I come in, Jones not feeling well, and then Johnny's not feeling great either, and so I'm knocking on wood that I make it through. Jones got some sore throat problems. I offered Johnny some of my throat coat.
Your slippery elm.
Joan, I offered you some slippery elm, and what did she say to me? She said, "No, thank you."
No, I didn't.
You said, "No, thank you." You keep your slippery elm to yourself, mister.
I resent the way you portray my voice. No, I don't.
You know, you do you better than I do you, Joan. All right. Hey, Joan, real quick. Name this tune. Go.
Here's the story.
Atta girl.
All right.
I was looking forward to that all morning long.
Really?
I wanted to see if you could do it. That was a
boy. That's what you.
That was me putting Joan on the spot. Johnny, you would know what that is too, right?
Sure. We go Brady Bunch.
So the Brady Bunch, Cindy Brady, also known as Susan Olsen,
yes,
says there is going to be a Brady reboot, but it was scrapped because of her politics. Cindy Brady, of course, Susan Olsen, she's apparently independent, but she sounds like she's kind of more like Republican, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what they say. Brady Bunch cast alum Susan Olsen, she is now saying that the reboot of the show was ultimately canceled because of her political beliefs, they say. They were going to have kind of like a Roseanne kind of a thing where you have a family and everybody's politics is different. And kind of like on Roseanne.
Kind of like real life.
Yeah, I would have watched this.
Yeah.
I don't know why they are saying no. She is 63.
Wow.
So I feel old.
Cindy Brady.
She says that...
a lisp.
Yeah, Cindy.
Cindy Brady. I wonder if she still has a lisp.
I don't think so.
No. She's she was a talk show host.
Was she really?
In Los Angeles, she was a talk show host.
I did not know that. She and Danny Bonaducci.
That's right. 63-year-old actress discussed what happened during a newly published episode of the Walkaway Campaign podcast this week. Olsen mentioned how producers concocted a follow-up version of the show where all the Brady kids were adults with different political leanings. She said it would have resembled the Roseanne reboot from 2018 that had a family with completely different political opinions. And in the end, they all love and respect each other. And she says that they wouldn't go for her political leanings because they said that she was sort of like a more conspiracy theorist.
Oh, come on.
Man.
But that's how they label people on the right.
No, you're right.
And
Olsen,
so she was the only one? She's it?
Yeah. Olsen said Greg Brady, Barry Williams, would have been a Reagan Republican. That is so Greg. Jan Brady would be a liberal. That makes sense because she was always the whiny one.
Yes.
Like, does that make sense, Joan?
Oh, yes.
And Johnny, she was always...
She's a Karen.
Marsha. Yes,
she's a Karen. Yeah.
Yes.
And let's see here. Cindy would be a libertarian podcaster with views similar to the actress's real beliefs. Olson said Greg Brady would have been a Reagan Republican, so on and so forth. So she says that they couldn't get over the fact that, she talked about what a lot of us talked about, which is suspicions regarding 2020 in the election and the side effects of the COVID vaccination. And for that, they scrapped the Brady reboot. I'm wondering if there's more to the story.
Probably.
Because is it those views are pretty mainstream right now.
Well, yeah.
Right?
That's families
Well, they're
today.
mainstream for you and I. But again, if you're one of those people that only listens to certain news outlets, if you only get your news from MSNBC or ABC or one of the mainstream media outlets, you never hear these things. You don't hear about vaccine injuries.
No.
You don't hear it. You don't know it exists.
I wonder how many people are still like that only get their news from like one source. Because people make fun of, talk radio sometimes. Oh, a bunch of old white guys, which is not the case. However, you look at where we get our information. Do you know I get more info these days on Twitter than I do on like your average website? I mean, if I had to, I could do, I don't, but I could do this whole show just on what I get from Twitter.
And thank God Elon Musk brought back free speech.
Yep.
My husband and I were talking about that last night.
Really?
If it wasn't for Elon Musk, we'd be in the dark still.
Yeah, we would.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think more people are discovering, like us, as in conservatives, as in calling out vaccine injuries and calling out, the irregularities in 2020's election. There's a lot that we talk about that, as we all know, turned out to be true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So thank God for Elon Musk for a number of different reasons. Number one is because he gives a forum for people to openly talk about that. That's number one. But number two, that means that more people are going to discover that there are real issues within those two and many other conversations that need to be discussed. So thank God for Elon Musk. By the way, did you hear that Donald Trump mentioned one of our coworkers yesterday?
What?
Really?
On Saturday during the Joe Rogan interview?
Really?
He did.
Wow.
He did. Listen to this.
But the weave is very important. Very few weavers around.
He's about Ken Weaver.
Ken Weaver.
Yeah, we got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
We've got a
listening to
Weaver.
that, and oh my God, he mentioned Ken Weaver.
But the weave is very important. Very few weavers around.
Because I call him Weaves.
That's funny.
Was that as dumb as I think it is, or?
I liked it.
I did too.
For once. I liked it.
I get the thumbs up from Joan. All right.
Well, let's not forget, too, if I can find it, that Joe Biden actually mentioned one of our coworkers at one time.
Get ready, Bal. You're going in for a problem.
Bell. He was mad at Bell.
Get ready, Bal. You're going in for a problem.
He was probably trying to say pal.
He was trying to say pal.
Yeah, he was.
Have you ever
It
heard
came
that
out
one,
Bell.
Joan?
I have not.
Oh, I remember when I first heard that one. Oh, my goodness. It was so funny.
Get ready, Bal. You're going in for a problem.
It's like you had one line.
You're going in for a problem.
You
Get
had
ready,
to just
Bell.
hit the one line, and you shanked it. Oh, my God.
Get ready, Bell. You're coming
So
for a
did you
problem.
notice during the Joe Rogan podcast, though, President Trump's talking about the weave. You weave in different stories, but you
Yes.
get back to the original. My boy has ADD. Sometimes he doesn't get back to the original.
No, he does not.
I will say I thought that the Joe Rogan thing, it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I listened to it twice.
Oh, twice, really?
Well, yeah, I listened to it once with Amy.
Okay.
And then I listened to it again to cut up the audio.
Yeah.
And you're right, Joan. He likes it. He purposely takes the long, circuitous way around.
Yeah.
The Magical Mystery Tour.
The magical mystery tour of trying to get Donald Trump to answer a question.
Well, but the thing I really thought was brilliant of Trump
I know what you're going to say.
Yes, you do. I loved when he started interviewing Rogan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Started asking him about boxing. And my father did the same thing. He was a salesman, radio salesman, on top of being a radio station owner.
Yeah.
And I went out on sales calls with him, and I thought it was the most brilliant move.
Yep.
Because they'd start talking about advertising, and you could tell the client, I don't want to advertise. I don't,
Yep.
And Dad would find something they had in common, some interest.
Yeah. Yep.
And when he would do that and start questioning it, and then they'd start talking and laughing about liking whatever it was.
Yep.
That by the end of the sales call, he not only had the client, but a lot of times the client wanted Dad to handle all of his advertising, like where to buy it.
Yep. See, I don't think Trump. I just think his mind goes a mile a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing that I liked about the 3-hour-long podcast is that Trump did answer a lot of questions. There was a lot of substantive answers that were given. And yeah, you're right. Donald Trump did turn around and start interviewing Joe Rogan about boxing. And is it UFC? Is that what Rogan's involved in? And it was funny, though, because the weekends are always the same. I get up rather early, and then I have to wait for Amy to get up.
Same. Not that I wait for Amy to get up, but.
You have to wait for the hubby to get up?
Yes.
Yeah, same here.
So I finally was able to sleep in on Saturday, and I get a text from the little missus at, what time was it? 5:47 in the morning.
Wow.
She sends me a text and she says, ready to listen to DJT? And it's like, no, I'm not ready to listen to DJT. And I went back to bed. So then I go down, and because she sleeps downstairs, I'm upstairs. So I go downstairs. She's 30 minutes in. She didn't even wait for me.
Wow.
I felt a little betrayed. I'm not going to lie.
I can't believe I beat you to it.
Did you beat me to it?
I did.
When did you watch it?
I watched it very early.
Really?
Yeah, Saturday morning, yeah.
That thing is, 11, 12, 13 million views at least?
Yes.
I'm sure it's probably a heck of a lot more now.
And that was just on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So there were tons of people, myself included, that watched it on Spotify. So the number of people that viewed this interview is insane. It had to be the most watched interview ever.
And I was so impressed with Joe Rogan. Man,
yes.
What a great talent that guy is.
He did work. He worked. He had his homework done. He knew every question to ask. And he tried to get President Trump to go back to the questions that he asked.
Yes.
He
did.
reined him in a little
like
bit.
Tariffs.
Yeah.
Like if you watch, I'm really glad you brought this up. So earlier in the podcast, he's trying to get Trump to talk a little bit about tariffs and how Trump wants to replace income taxes with tariffs. And so Trump goes full on Trump and just 90 minutes later, Joe Rogan he sees an opening and gets right back to tariffs.
Yes.
I mean, I said to Amy, I'm really impressed with that. Because, we're driving to breakfast and some other places, listening to this as we drive around. And it was really, really impressive. That's why I'm so excited to play the audio for you coming up. It was a really good weekend, I will say, for Donald Trump. Because he did have, of course, the rally last night, which I think by all accounts, I don't care what the left says about this being some sort of a Nazi rally. I think that they are just absolutely desperate. But also, I think that the Joe Rogan thing was an absolute success as well. So I think, by and large, when you compare the weekends, Kamala Harris had a terrible weekend, an absolutely terrible weekend. You heard what happened with Beyonce, right?
Yes. Oh, man.
So,
did you see how many people walked out?
Oh, yeah. Listen to this.
Thank you.
People are leaving because Beyonce was supposed to perform, but she came out and spoke for like 4 minutes and left.
See you later.
Wow.
See you later. See you later.
She says see you later to the people that are leaving, I guess. I mean, that was pretty brutal. I mean, that.
Oh, man.
That's at her own rally.
That is at her own rally. So anybody that says, oh, the boos are dubbed in and that's all just fake news, actually no, because she acknowledged it when she said, see you later. Because you go on Twitter and they have the they have the video of people turning around and leaving. And they build it literally as a Beyonce concert. And so people online, I've got a whole list of things, people's reactions. One person said, you can't even fulfill the promise that Beyonce is going to play. How are we going to believe that you're going to fulfill the other promises like closing the border? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was a bad weekend for has there been anything over the past month that has gone right for Kamala Harris?
Not really. And when you think of that, too, that's the whole reason people were there. They didn't want to hear her speak. They wanted to hear Beyonce sing.
That's exactly right.
When that didn't happen,
sad.
We'll go home. We'll boo first, and then we'll go home.
Did you see what happened over on NBC? So they're doing an interview, and one of the players...
Points in the first half. What was said during halftime? Hey, all right, Nick Bosa with a message there.
Nick Bosa, who plays, I guess, for the 49ers.
Yeah.
Pops into the interview wearing a Trump hat.
Oh,
and the great thing is, everybody started laughing. Like the reporter didn't laugh. I don't know who the reporter was. But,
of course not.
But the report. But everybody around. There's like 3 or 4 football players there that were partaking in the interview.
Yeah.
They all laughed. Because I think that they all know. I think everybody knows that, things are not going well for Harris, and she has lost the culture.
So having heard, and I'm sure you did over the weekend, that now the national polls have Kamala Harris pulling ahead.
Nah, it's BS.
Where do they get their numbers from?
Well, first of all, as you know, as everybody knows, the national polls don't matter.
Yes.
It's all about the battlegrounds. And if you look at the battlegrounds, Trump is still ahead in the battleground states. I don't believe the polling that shows that Harris is up by 2. I don't believe it. So take it for what it's worth. But I just saw an incredible performance by, Trump and his supporters last night at Madison Square Garden. And I do believe that for Trump, that 3 hours with Joe Rogan is going to make a difference. Real quickly, who do you folks believe is more influential today? Joe Rogan or Taylor Swift? What do you think, Johnny?
Joe Rogan.
Okay. Joan?
It depends on who you're asking. So if you're asking somebody who's younger, and especially if it's a younger female, they're going to say Taylor Swift.
Right.
If you're asking Marsha Brady, Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Jan Brady.
Or Jan.
Yeah. Hey, did you love Melania Trump last night?
I did. And that was a big surprise that she actually shows up.
It was.
All right, so coming up next, I actually do have a whole bunch of audio from Trump and Joe Rogan, and also Trump's appearance at Madison Square Garden. Stay close. A lot coming up, including Joan Jones with the news at 6. What's coming up?
We got a sign of hurricane recovery out of East Tennessee this morning, and Vanderbilt is hoping more people will volunteer for an important study. Those coming up at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Good morning, 6 o'clock now, and 51 degrees, your full forecast, and traffic still to come. Interstate 26 in Unicoi County is expected to reopen within the next 2 weeks. That's according to the Tennessee Department of Transportation. Drivers will have access to one lane of traffic in both directions. Crews are working toward restoring one lane of traffic after Helene hit that region last month. Now, in the meantime, TDOT says it continues to repave portions of the roadway that had been damaged by floodwaters. Vanderbilt University Medical Center recruiting volunteers for a new Alzheimer's study. It's called the Vanderbilt Memory and Aging Project. Participants are required to have a blood test, a brain and heart scans, and eventually a spinal tap, too. Paige Thompson tells Channel 4 her dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Now she has volunteered.
I participated in this study because I want to make a difference. And this is how we get to a cure for this disease, is studying it. And my dad would do this for me in a heartbeat. And so I want to do it for him.
Right now, there are 900 Tennesseans participating in the study. Vanderbilt needs 100 more. They're in need of black men and women over the age of 50. Google the term Vanderbilt Memory and Aging Project to find out more information. And a horse has died after getting stuck in a muddy pond. It happened yesterday in Smith County when crews arrived at the scene last evening. That 25-year-old horse had been stuck for a long period of time in a pond that was dry, but the mud was very thick. Eventually, the horse had to be euthanized. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Here's Jim Ryan.
Stock futures were higher this morning and pointing to new record highs for the NASDAQ. The tech-heavy composite picked up 0.5% Friday, while the Dow Jones lost 260 points and closed at 42,114. The S&P slipped a fraction. Market watchers this week will have an eye on some key economic reports. New numbers on gross domestic product are due out Wednesday. A key inflation report comes out Thursday.
And right now, stock futures are pointing up. Dow futures up 225, NASDAQ futures gaining 151, and the S&P futures are up 34. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Got a problem in Clarksville. It's on 24 westbound at the Sango Road overpass. A crash has been reported there. Some drop-off delays at the airport and also an accident in Hermitage, Old Hickory Boulevard at Andrew Jackson Way. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Fueled, opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
6:07 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Welcome on in your Monday, October 28th. I'm checking out the Super Text chat line. I guess it's the chat line on Facebook. Guy named Steven says, I still think Tim Waltz looks like a demented Don Rickles. He's a joke. That's actually true.
I see it.
I see it too.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? So real quick, the I do believe that the tide is not turning. I believe that the tide has turned. This actually aired on MSNBC. I'm going to get to a bunch of audio from the Joe Rogan, Donald Trump chat conversation over the weekend, but this was on MSNBC.
I've heard so much about Trump being angry and he's a fascist and a dictator, but problem is when I listen to him, I don't hear any of that.
Do you know what's crazy? What surprises me isn't that somebody is saying that. What surprises me is that they aired that on MSNBC. And so that man on MSNBC is basically calling out MSNBC, and that is a pre-recorded piece, and they ran that. And so I don't know if MSNBC, I mean, good Lord, can you imagine? I wonder if Morning Joe and Mika, I wonder if they'll run that and talk about that. And they'll probably call this man, you know, either delusional or ignorant or, oh, he's just a Nazi. He just doesn't realize it. But the fact that they ran that, I thought was very surprising. Now, with the Donald Trump and Joe Rogan interview, it was a great interview. And so I agree with that man who was interviewed on MSNBC where, you know, you hear that Donald Trump is unhinged, he is a lunatic, he is a Nazi, and all of these other things. And the dude, I just played you the audio, he doesn't see it. One of the things that I really liked is that you've got two men, Donald Trump and Joe Rogan, two of the most vilified, demonized people in America. One's a podcaster. One is a presidential candidate, former president as well. And they both have been demonized horrifically. Now, one thing that I actually really liked was that Rogan, he started with the coordinated attacks on Donald Trump. They talked about that. He, of course, brought up The View, but he says that over the last 8 years, you have literally been the most attacked man on the face of the earth.
There's probably no one in history that I've ever seen that's been attacked the way you've been attacked and the way they've done it, so coordinated. And some people are catching on to that now. There's a lot of people that were longtime Democrats like Elon and Bill Ackman and all these different, very intelligent people.
And they support me now. Bill Ackman supports
me.
He's been very supportive.
I mean, look, he's absolutely right. And they brought up a couple of people who are, you know, very famous, but I'm going to go back to this guy.
I've heard so much about Trump being angry and he's a fascist and a dictator, but problem is when I listen to him, I don't hear any of that.
So, of course, Democrats, media, the social media as well, newspapers like the Times and the Washington Post, among many others, you know, they've been portraying Donald Trump. They've been branding Donald Trump as all of these things that just, they're not true. I mean, you want to look at angry and demented, look at Kamala Harris's speeches. I mean, she's out there, she's screaming the same thing about Donald Trump, never again. We're not going to let him, you know, behind the presidential, the resolute desk, never again, never again. And she's angry. And they're all angry because they're panicking. Joe Biden, I didn't even bother to pull any of the audio from Joe Biden's lunatic speech over the weekend, but he was in Pennsylvania. They dusted off old Joe. They gave him whatever they give him to wake him up, and he was going after Donald Trump big time. Whatever. Because I think right now it kind of feels like the Republicans are just kind of doing their own thing. It's like there's no reason to continuously try to fact check the Democrats because I don't know if anybody believes them. And that's the thing. There's a reason why, I don't know if you saw this, but over the weekend, the Washington Post, they actually decided, you know what? This year, we're not going to endorse any presidential candidate. Now, if you don't think that that is a slap against Kamala Harris, then you're really not paying attention. Big, big story over the weekend. Now, Trump, of course, he talked about the attacks on he and his family many times, but I did like how Rogan actually, he sets the table that way. The first question right out of the box, Donald Trump didn't really actually say a lot about it, about the hate and the vitriol that comes his way every single day, except that, yeah, he has been attacked viciously for a long time. You know, staying in the White House, he says, because they're also talking about what it was like to walk into the White House the first time as the president. And he talked about how it was incredible, it was opulent, it was surreal, especially the Lincoln bedroom. But he did say that all of that eventually does wear off and reality sets in.
To me, that was the experience. It was a surreal experience. With time, that wears off. With time, it becomes, your place where you stay. And
right.
I was doing I had two things that I really focused on: governing the country and survival. Because from the moment I won, before I got to office, all of a sudden, they came down. Nobody has ever been treated that way. And you see that. You see where in the Washington Post very early on, they said, well, now the impeachment stuff starts. And it did. It literally started from the beginning.
I'm glad he reminded me of that, because when Trump was inaugurated, they actually had that article in the Washington Post where they were getting ready to impeach him. He had just taken office. But in offices all across Washington, D.C., they were already holding mock impeachment hearings, et cetera. Now, later on in the interview, Donald Trump and Joe Rogan, they spoke about people who are offered jobs at CNN. But the gig has to be one where that contributor will actually go after Donald Trump. And I think this is interesting because Donald Trump, of course, as you know, he is being attacked by John Kelly, by John Bolton, people that used to work in his administration. And he says, yeah, that's the only way that these people can actually remain relevant.
I've had many people go on CNN and they call and said, I don't know what to do. They want to pay me a lot, but I have to be negative on you. I said, be negative. That's okay. I tell people, go negative. Let my friends make the money.
Well, it's
just
just
so crooked. The press
is
so crooked.
It's crooked, but it's also they're diminishing themselves.
Yep.
They're killing all their credibility, and it's opening up the credibility to new media. It's opening up the credibility to independent media.
He and Rogan are absolutely right about the media destroying their own credibility. I spent some time over the weekend trying to decide what media hoax, what lie, what exaggeration has done the most damage to the media's credibility. But it's not only the media's credibility, it's also the Democrats' credibility. So, of course, there's the find people on both sides BS, the Democrats and their refusal or acknowledgement that Biden was losing his competency. They refused to acknowledge that for 2 or 3 years, their refusal to acknowledge that. They also refused to call out cringe Jean-Pierre and Joe Biden on the border being closed. That was, of course, a big lie. The media refused to call that out, even though they knew that this was a massive lie that was going on. And this constant narrative that Donald Trump is like Hitler, that also is a bunch of BS. So issue by issue, narrative after narrative, and story after story, the media and the Democrats continue to destroy their own credibility. And this is why, you've got John Kelly, you've got John Bolton, and they're desperately trying to remain relevant. And so here we are a couple of weeks before, last week, a couple of weeks before the election. And here comes John Kelly with all of these so familiar accusations that Donald Trump is like Hitler. Of course, the story in the Atlantic as well. And it's all just unproven BS. And that does show you that not only are they losing their credibility, they've lost their credibility, but also they're desperate because they're looking at the same polls that we are. 6:16, time to check the roads on WTN. Very good. Partly cloudy today and a high of 81 right now, 49 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. One of my favorite moments, Donald Trump, Joe Rogan, was when they were talking about defunding the police.
And it's very hard to get cops now because they're not given any backup. They have like an eighth of a second to make a decision that's going to change their life. if they make the wrong decision, they're going to end up on the front page of every newspaper in the country, and they're going to lose their house and their pension and their job, and their wife is going to be gone, and everything's going to be gone.
And here's another thing that people don't talk about. How many of them have PTSD? Probably most of them.
Yeah,
these guys are seeing people shot all the time.
Yep.
You know, I've talked to a ton of cops about it, and a lot of cops commit suicide. A lot of cops are deeply depressed. But
we have to give them back their dignity. You're never going to have it perfect. You're going to have a bad apple.
In everything, in every profession.
But every time there's a bad apple, that gets massive publicity, and it taints everybody else.
But it's also this very irresponsible thing where people say, defund the police, get rid of the police. Even Kamala Harris was a part of that. That it's a very stupid way to look at it.
Yeah, that is very true. And Joe Rogan is right. Kamala Harris was one of the original defund the police advocates. She said that we need to redirect funds from the police. She advocated for soft on crime policies. She also advocated for the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which, as you folks know, bailed out violent criminals. So her policies on who she supports is clear, and it ain't cops. Great article from the New York Post over the weekend. By the way, I posted this on my X feed. The headline is Kamala Harris is the original defunder of the police and lies about her time as a prosecutor. That's not a bunch of talk show hosts talking. That's a bunch of ex-police officers. They say, and again, this is from the New York Post over the weekend, despite often touting her great experience personally prosecuting, and they put that in air quotes, transnational criminal organizations, including at a CNN town hall this week, the Democratic presidential nominee during her tenure as Attorney General of California oversaw the shutdown of the state's Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement, or BNE, in 2012. They say she could have fought the closure, but she didn't. I think her lack of action showed what she wanted, says Carrie Cavalieri, a former special agent with the Department of Justice, telling the New York Post, adding Kamala Harris was the original defunder of the police. And so this story has a whole bunch of police officers that are saying that when the governor of California at the time decided that he was going to basically defund the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement back in 2012, Kamala Harris could have fought for it, but she didn't. And there's actually a lot of people who are pointing the blame right at her, not the governor at the time, Jerry Brown, but her, and saying that it was Kamala Harris who was one of the driving factors behind the defunding of the Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement. And so, yeah, even former cops in California and elsewhere are calling out Kamala Harris as being one of the originals, one of the original defund the policers.
She was a big part of defund the police. That was a big thing for her, defund the police, always defund the police.
Well, it's a political idea,
but
right?
Anybody with that political thought, I don't think should be running for president, and I think people are getting wise to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are, and I think that is one of many reasons why Donald Trump is doing a lot better and Kamala Harris not so much. The former president also spoke about tariffs, and he floated this idea, you remember this last week, of replacing income tax with tariffs. Now, this is quite an idea, and Rogan did bring this up.
This country can become rich with the proper use of tariffs.
Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. His language was really beautiful. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right.
Yeah, well, so there, and by the way, fact checkers are all over that. But I'm going to, coming up at 6:35, speak to economist E.J. Antoni. You've seen him on Fox News and elsewhere. And we're going to do a deep dive into Donald Trump's tariff plan, and could he actually use tariffs to replace income taxes? It's quite an aggressive idea, and we're going to speak to EJ coming up after the news Right now, 622. Speaking of the news, Joan Jones, what's coming up?
I'll tell you about the one county that's falling behind in early voter turnout. Also, a license plate reader catches a stolen U-Haul. Those stories at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. 622 on Nashville's Morning News. You know, these days with kids and now grandkids, it's more important than ever to have clean carpets. And that's why I use Zero Res to keep my carpets clean and the little ones safe. Now, at Zero Res, they do not use harsh chemicals, and they do leave your carpets insanely clean. No soap and no residue, just soft, fluffy carpets that are going to stay clean longer. Dan Mandis here, and yes, I've been a Zero Res customer for years. You know, cold and flu season is just around the corner, and your carpet is one of the largest filters in your home. Keep it clean and your family healthy with Zero Res. A great deal they have going on right now. 3 rooms of carpets cleaned for only $119. You're also going to get a free hallway. One more time, the Dan deal. Call Zero Res right now and ask about it. 615-535-9376. 3 rooms of carpets cleaned for $119. Also, you're going to get a free hallway and $100 off of air duct cleaning as well using Fresh 100 as the promo code. Such a great deal. No wonder they have so many great reviews on Facebook and Google reviews as well. You can find them online. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. ZeroResNashville.com.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
The dual power of radio and digital advertising on Super Talk 99.7 WTN has always delivered for our local advertisers. Now's your chance to book your 2025 marketing campaign early for savings and incentives. Just reach out today to your local ad representative or go to 997wtn.com/epic.
628 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN News with Joan Jones is coming up. Dan Mandis here. And let me tell you, as a guy who's getting closer and closer to retirement age, the daunting task of figuring out Medicare is always on my mind, which is why I am so glad that I have Paul Winkler on my side. Now, Paul helps his clients understand Medicare and planning for retirement. Matter of fact, last week he had a whole workshop on Medicare. If you missed it, you can still see it on his website. It is at paulwinkler.com/webinars, and it is right there on the front page. Again, paulwinkler.com/webinars. And Paul had experts. He had experts on to really help you understand the mistakes you can make when signing up for Medicare. He talked about what Medicare covers, what it doesn't cover, and all of the options that you may have. This is really important stuff. So it's not too late. It's all online at paulwinkler.com/webinars. He can save you time, he can save you money, and help you get ready for what should be the best years of your life. Tell him Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Online at paulwinkler.com, 615-851-1950, 615-851-1950 for Paul Winkler.
Good morning. It's now 6:29. I'm Joan Jones with the latest news. We have a dense fog advisory that just hit the Davidson County area. So, yeah, there is quite a bit of fog on the roads this morning. Careful out there. We've got your full forecast and traffic coming up. Early voting will end in Tennessee this week, and so far, voter turnout has surpassed 30%. The Secretary of State's office saying turnout is better than it was in 2016, but not quite as good as it was in 2020. There are some hardy voters in Williamson and Loudoun counties where voter turnout is above 40%. Davidson County is at about 20%. In 2020, Davidson County at this point was 26%. Now, Shelby County has seen the biggest decrease in early voters so far. Early voting will end on Thursday. That's the 31st. A woman was arrested after a license plate reader alerted police to a stolen U-Haul. Mount Juliet police say they got an alert from the reader yesterday afternoon and intercepted the truck on Pleasant Grove Road within minutes. A 37-year-old woman from Nashville was arrested. That truck had been reported stolen from Nashville in September. And a small plane crashed last evening just south of Lexington, Kentucky, killing 2 people who were on board. Police say that aircraft was a single-powered parachute craft that crashed in a field. Police believe the 2 people on board were a husband and wife. They say the husband was an experienced pilot and had been flying for roughly 20 years. The NTSB is arriving on the scene to begin an investigation this morning. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management online at beaconcm.com. Dow futures are up 186 right now. NASDAQ futures plus 133. The S&P futures are gaining 30 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 6:32 on WTN. Dan Mandis here. And now is the time to call Cove Generators. And right now, they're offering you a free 7-year warranty. That's over $1,000 value. So if you've ever wanted one of those backup home standby generators, now is the time to do it. Plus, they've got great financing options as well. Now, they are your premier Generac home standby generator dealer here in the state of Tennessee. So be prepared for the next power outage and call my friends at Cove Generators and never lose power again. That phone number is 931-559-3311. Tell them Dan Mandis showed you to reach out, 931-559-3311. And make sure you mention that free 7-year warranty worth over $1,000. Cove Generators can also service your Generac automatic standby generator or any brand of generator that you own. So call them today. Again, tell them I told you to reach out at 931-559-3311. 931-559-3311, covegenerators.com.
Well, so we do have some fog on the roads. In fact, a dense fog advisory has just been issued for Davidson County. Got to watch it. Crash reported this morning westbound 24 in Clarksville. This is at the Sango Road overpass. Also 65 southbound in Talbot's Corner, I-24 north, exit 88. There's a crash there as well. And it's actually it's a stalled out car that's blocking the center lane. A crash involving injuries at Hermitage Old Hickory Boulevard at Frist Boulevard. And there are some drop-off delays at the airport this morning. That may be because of the fog as well. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.36 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Dan Mandis here along with Joan Jones, Johnny B, and EJ Antoni is joining us this morning. EJ, always great to have you on the phone. You are an economist. We've seen you on Fox News and other places as well. EJ, always great to have you on. I wanted to bring you on because the former president, Donald Trump, saying that he wants to replace income taxes with tariffs. Now, EJ, all across the media this morning, you see all of these dire predictions of what's going to happen to our economy if Donald Trump implements these, as some say, draconian tariffs against, in my opinion, evil forces like China and other nations as well. But talk a little bit about Trump's tariff plan. Could he actually replace income taxes with tariffs?
Well, Dan, thanks for having me. And first off, I find it interesting the same people with all these dire predictions right now are the same ones who had similarly dire predictions when Trump first got into office. I remember some of them even going so far as to say, sell all your stocks because he's going to crash the market. And then it proceeded to just set record high after record high. So let's not believe all the doomsayers and the naysayers here. But, it's absolutely possible to do it. And in fact, it has been done before. We forget that before 1913, which is most of the nation's history, we didn't have an income tax. Instead, what we had was a federal government that was much smaller and funded itself almost exclusively by tariffs. So this idea that it's never been done or that it's impossible, the record of history just doesn't support that. And you can do it again.
One of the things, and the president talks about William McKinley often, and he calls McKinley something like the king of taxes or the king of tariffs, and among other things. He likes McKinley a lot because McKinley did use tariffs. You're going to know a lot more about this than me. But from what I understand, McKinley, his whole thing was he basically wanted tariffs to be the same. So, for example, if, Mexico had a tariff on our goods, 15% exporting into Mexico, then he wanted us to have an import tariff of 15% as well. Is it possible that for President Trump, everybody knows that it's always like the art of the deal. It's a game to him. Part of this could be that he is just setting the stage for negotiations with China and with Mexico if he ultimately ends up in office?
Well, one of the things that Trump did during the first term is that he took tariffs from simply being if you want to think of it as strategic bombing, and he turned it into tactical bombing. In other words, it's not simply just we're going to use this as a general revenue measure, but now we're actually going to use this as a surgical tool to get what we want in international negotiations. We are, in other words, going to weaponize the purchasing power of the American people and potentially close off some of our markets, our consumer markets, to foreigners. And it worked incredibly well during his first term. And I just see no reason to believe why it wouldn't work very well in his second term, especially since now he already has the measure of a lot of these other world leaders, and he already has some experience under his belt, and they got to see even more so what exactly works and what doesn't.
So is part of the Trump plan, if he really does want to do this, replace income taxes with tariffs, I'm assuming that part of that equation, and we did see this during the first administration when he cut taxes and regulations, people had more money in their pocket. So is part of the equation here that Trump is following, is it that, okay, so if I eliminate income taxes and I charge all these tariffs, I impose all these tariffs on foreign goods, then the American people are going to have more money in their pocket to spend. And then, of course, what that does with the sales taxes and all that is that gives the government more money via sales taxes, and that means more income for the government in that way.
Yeah, it's pretty simple to just swap out one kind of tax, for another, and that's essentially what's happening here. Trump wants to basically stop taxing domestic trade, which is what happens when you have a domestic income tax or a domestic sales tax. You are taxing a kind of domestic trade. So he wants to stop that and replace it with a tax on international trade. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that, not the least of which is the fact that you are helping to support your fellow Americans and you're reducing the support that you're giving to foreigners. And look, it's not that we hate foreigners. It's just that we happen to like our fellow Americans more. That's all. And so, again, I think there's a lot of support for this idea, and it's not just simply theoretical, but there's empirical evidence as well. We have done it here in the United States, and you've seen it done in other countries around the world. When you reduce one kind of tax, you can simply replace it with another.
What happens? So one of the other things that I liked that Trump is saying is, okay, so if you make your widgets in America versus your widgets in, I don't know, whatever, China, South Korea, whatever. But if you make your widgets in America, you get a lower tax rate for your business. That's part of the equation here, too. Did he do that in his first term?
Not exactly. The bigger thing that he did was the reduction in regulation. And what essentially happened here was, let me, if we have time, let me give you a quick example. A typical manufacturing worker, I'm going to round some of the numbers here. Let's say makes about $50,000. But that's just the direct compensation to the employee. There is indirect compensation. In other words, there are costs to the business where they have to pay things like taxes on that worker. They have to pay benefits packages, et cetera. So imagine all of that together is another $50,000. But you also have regulatory cost, a regulatory burden that is paid by the manufacturer, by the employer. That's going to be about another 50 or 75 grand even. And so what looks like a $50,000 employee is actually somewhere between $150,000, maybe $175,000 employee from the cost perspective of the business. And so it's key that you get that regulatory burden down so that people can return manufacturing to the United States, so that businesses can return to the United States, so that you can reverse that corporate inversion. In other words, get people to bring jobs and bring manufacturing back here to America. Reducing that regulatory burden actually provided even more of an incentive for businesses than the tax reform of 2017 did, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah. The regulations, the cutting of regulations was a very big deal. And it seems like to me, because I'm not a financial guy, so I rely on people like you, but it seems like what Trump is doing is he's got sort of this cauldron of ideas, right, where he wants to extend and even strengthen the Trump tax cuts. He wants to charge these tariffs. He's talking about flirting with the idea of replacing income taxes with tariffs. I mean, there's a lot of things that he wants to do. Of course, drill, baby, drill. And one of the things that I thought that was really a great part of the conversation with Joe Rogan was where he spoke about the American assets. I'm going to play that piece of audio for you, EJ and Tony, right after we take 15 seconds to check the traffic, because I think that that's also a big part of how Donald Trump wants to really help the economy of the American people. 6:45, time to check the roads. Partly cloudy today, a high of 81. A lot of fog out there this morning, so be careful, and appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. A.J. Antoni is joining us. Of course, he's an economist. You've seen him on Fox News, heard him here on Nashville's Morning News as well. E.J., I want to play you this audio from former President Donald Trump, and he's talking about the assets of America.
$35 trillion right now. It's a lot. But if you look at the asset value, if you looked at it purely as an asset value, we have oil underground, we have water, we have mountains, the assets are so enormous. But regardless of that, we've got $35 trillion in debt. We should pay it off. And we would have started paying off debt and probably even given further tax reductions. I want to get it down to 15%.
So that is former President Donald Trump and Joe Rogan talking about the $35 trillion debt that we currently have. And the question to Trump was, when are we going to start paying off the debt? But he talked about the assets that we have here in America. I'm pretty certain that you and I would both agree that we're not taking advantage of those assets. But taking advantage of those assets is a big part of what Trump wants to do if he wins re-election.
100%, Dan. You're absolutely right here. And look, part of the problem goes back, in other words, a big reason why we're not taking advantage of those assets goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the regulatory burden, where you have a government that during one administration says, oh, sure, you can drill here. Here's your permit, and here's your lease, and here are all your environmental clearances, et cetera. And then you fast forward to this administration where they have revoked all of those. Or even if they haven't revoked all of them, they've at least revoked one. A big talking point from the Biden-Harris administration has repeatedly been, we've extended more leases. We've extended more permits for drilling, that is. But what they're not telling you, the dirty little secret, is that they're only extending one or the other when you need both. In other words, they are purposely extending essentially one bureaucratic nod to a company while taking away permission with another bureaucratic agency. And so the end result is that they can goose the numbers and make it look like they are allowing more drilling or more production, when in reality they are just throwing more roadblocks in the way of drillers, of the producers, of the refiners, et cetera.
So the first thing, and you're right, it's one thing to say, hey, we're extending the leases or whatever it is, but then the regulatory process, and I've interviewed, people that are experts in the oil industry. I've interviewed you a number of times on this. Basically, the bottom line is, yeah, you're right. What they're doing is they're saying that they're opening these leases up, but the reality is that they make it so incredibly complicated to get through the regulatory process that it's just darn right, impossible. And so that impacts, obviously, the cost of gasoline and everything associated with it. Is there a concern? Final question here, EJ. Is there a concern? Do you have a concern? Because this is one of the big issues that people are worried about with these tariffs, that if we charge tariffs to China and Mexico and so forth, then that would ultimately lead to higher prices of those goods, those tariffs, because the Harris campaign is calling this basically a tax hike is what they're calling it. I don't believe that it's a tax hike, because a tax hike, you actually don't have any choice but to pay those taxes. You can decide whether or not to buy a certain thing. But that being said, is there a worry that these tariffs would increase the prices of goods across America?
No, Dan, there's really not a worry, unless you're one of the people who were wrong the first time Trump was president. Going back to what we had said originally, the same people saying today that the sky is falling, Trump's going to kill us all. I'm sorry, but those were the same people who were completely wrong about all of his economic policies the first time around. So history is clearly not on their side. But furthermore, theory isn't on their side either. In economics, we have something we like to call tax incidence, which means that just because you tax person A doesn't mean person A actually pays the tax. The corporate income tax is a great example of this. Corporations don't pay taxes. When they get charged an income tax by the government, they simply charge their customers higher prices. They pay their workers lower wages, and their shareholders see a lower rate of return. So the tax incidence of the corporate income tax falls on those three groups of people. And when you have tariffs, during the first Trump administration, for example, over 80 cents on the dollar was not paid by American consumers. They paid less than 20 cents on the dollar of all the tariffs that Trump imposed. So where did the other 80 cents come from? It came from places like Chinese manufacturers who simply had to eat the cost of those tariffs, which is great because those are the same Chinese manufacturers who were getting subsidized by the Chinese government to give them an unfair advantage. So most of those Trump tariffs, all they simply did was try to create a more level playing field for American producers. I'd say that's a win-win. You basically have a Chinese company that's sending tax revenue to the United States Treasury.
And the bottom line is if they want access to the American market, they got to deal with the tariffs, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right, Dan.
All right, EJ, how can people find you on X?
X is going to be the best platform to find me on, and the handle there is @RealEJAntoni, ANTONI.
All right, EJ, always great to have you on. Have a great week. It is 6:51 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news at 7?
Well, Dan, McDonald's zeroes in on what's causing people to fall ill with E. coli. Also, more families decide that mom should stay home instead of going to work. Those stories coming up at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. Dan Mandis here. Get in the fight. We don't have to wait until November to start taking our country back. We can get in the fight right now with Coin, the conservative credit card. Instead of funneling millions of dollars to the left like some of these other credit cards, Coin advances conservative values and charities. Earn cash back while fighting back. Apply right now at coin.com. The spelling is important. COIGN, coin.com. That is coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. Again, that is COIGN, coin.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
6:55 on Nashville's Morning News. Went over to the Glock store a few weeks ago. I had some fun shooting at their Halloween shoot house, and it's basically a course where you're firing for 90 seconds and you see how well you do on this Halloween-themed course. Yet it is a competition. They've got smoke and they've got displays. It's a lot of fun. And they're actually putting a video together of yours truly. I think you can find it over at glockstore.com. But again, this is a competition. You can actually win a Glock if you participate. Now, one of the things that they do is, again, they've got smoke and they've got this course that you can utilize and fire and test your skills. And you can do this in their massive rooms because they can. Lane ranges, as you know, friends, are really limited. What the Glock store does is so unique because you can train in their massive rooms and also have fun with this Halloween-themed shooting contest. Now, I've been to a lot of gun ranges over the years, but the Glock store is absolutely the best. Check it out. You can also, by the way, again, win a Glock in this Halloween shoot house. So check him out online, shoot270.com. There is still time. Shoot270.com. Mention Dan Mandis as well, if you would. The Glock store, minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere. Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck.
Hey, I'm Joan Jones on Super Talk 99.7. And you know, the dual power of radio and digital has always been such a plus for our advertisers. So if you're thinking about your 2025 plans, make sure you check us out at 997wtn.com/epic. Go there now. Good morning, 7 o'clock now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're looking at 52 degrees and some thick fog in some spots this morning. The cameras are showing that the fog is mostly in the south and the eastern parts of Nashville. Be careful as you're traveling in those areas this morning. We've got your full forecast and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. The Quarter Pounder making a comeback now at burger chain McDonald's after it was pulled off the menu at 900 restaurants over E. coli concerns. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimbert.
The FDA is using all available tools to confirm if onions are this. McDonald's says the FDA believes slivered onions from a single supplier, Taylor Farms, are the likely source. And we remain very confident that any contaminated product related to this outbreak has been removed from our supply chain and is out of all McDonald's restaurants. The FDA has yet to publicly rule out the patties. A spokesperson saying this weekend the FDA is using all available tools to confirm if onions are the source of this outbreak. For the time being, McDonald's has stopped doing business with Taylor Farms, which has removed its yellow onions from the market.
At least 75 cases have been reported across 13 states. One person has died and nearly 24 people have been hospitalized. Well, told you about a Nashville jewelry store robbery Friday. Well, today, 2 people have been arrested in Florida, in Miami. 34-year-old Orlando Hernandez and 38-year-old Melanie Garcia found in possession of that $1 million worth of jewelry, a large sum of cash, and a wig. The store owner said the suspects deployed pepper spray at the Dubai jewelry store on Nolensville Pike last Wednesday and then scooped up jewelry, a $95,000 belt, and a bar of gold. Well, as the top presidential candidates come up with ways to appeal to American families on child care costs, some parents are questioning if it's worth it to go to work outside the home. Here's ABC's Allison Kosick.
Many child care centers say post-COVID, they've struggled with staffing shortages and the expiration of federal funds and have been forced to pass higher costs onto families. Those costs, according to one survey, have prompted 45% of working mothers to consider leaving the workforce or reducing their work hours.
The new study ranked states on daycare costs. The 3 least affordable states were New Mexico, Hawaii, and New York.
Now, according to a survey conducted by babycenter.com, the average family spent close to $17,000 of their take-home pay on childcare. Some were even told they had a wait list that went for 2 years. For the 10th straight year, Chicago has been named the rattiest city in the U.S. Orkin issues this list every year. The company says Chicago's abundance of alleys provides rodents plenty of space to hide and dig through trash. Well, now, as for Nashville, Music City improved just a bit, ending at number 36 on the list this year. Better than last year's showing at number 35. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures are all pointing up this morning ahead of the opening bell. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Now, it's fog that's causing a lot of problems this morning. A dense fog advisory until 8 o'clock this morning for Davidson and Wilson counties. Very poor visibility continues. Got to watch it in Clarksville. A crash at 24 westbound at the Sango Road overpass. Been there for quite a while. A stalled out car East Bank, and it's blocking the center lane on 24 eastbound lanes at Spring Street, Ellington Parkway, exit 47A. And a crash in Lakewood on Old Hickory Boulevard near Pitts Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Information fueled, opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
7:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Dan Mandis here along with Joan Jones and Johnny B.
Why'd you laugh when you said my name?
You know what? I'm not laughing at you, Joan. I'm laughing at the headline from the Today Show.
Okay.
Trump rally marked by racist and vulgar comments at MAGA Square Garden.
MAGA Square.
Did you like what I did there?
Yes,
Madison Square, MAGA Square Garden.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
I stole that from Twitter.
So ABC is also doing the same thing that, I think I read this to Johnny just a couple of minutes ago. Let me see if I can find it again.
Yeah, it's about this dude, Tony, is it Hinchcliffe?
Hinchcliffe, yeah.
Yeah, he's a comedian, and he is the host of the Kill Tony podcast. They say this is the #1 live podcast in the world. Tony is known for roasting celebrities and famous politicians. Tony's show showcases professional comedians and elevates lesser-known comedians as well. He's roasted the likes of Donald Trump, Snoop Dogg, and even Tom Brady, and so on and so forth. So that's what he does. He's a roaster. And he said this last night about Puerto Rico.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
So here's the deal. It's true. Puerto Rico is an island, basically, and trash washes up on the shores of Puerto Rico. And so this is a fact that everybody knows, and the media has been covering this for, years they've been covering it. So now to make this some sort of a racist against Puerto Ricans comment, Puerto Ricans themselves will tell you that this is what's going on in Puerto Rico. There's a Puerto Rican woman, actually, who took to, I guess it was TikTok, and she started defending Donald Trump because people are trying to say, see, we told you, this is going to be like Hitler. And all that nonsense about how this MAGA rally at MAGA Square Garden was going to be about Nazis and, Hitler and all of this other stuff, really, doomsaying what this big rally was going to be about. And there's some people that are out there actually saying that this was the greatest political rally in the history of political rallies. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it was incredible. But this is what one Puerto Rican woman actually says about that comedian's joke about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage.
As a Puerto Rican American myself, my dad grew up in Puerto Rico. I was not insulted by this in the very least. Number one, this guy is a comedian. Number two, the clip that they don't show you from right before that is him joking with Latino Americans about a bunch of stuff in our culture. And if you know anything about a Latino American or Hispanic American, we are our worst critics. We harass and make fun of each other. This guy's not talking about Puerto Rican people. He's talking about the island of Puerto Rico, which has a massive pollution problem. Tons of trash washes up on this beach every single day, and it looks like a landfill. What a cheap shot they're trying to make while Kamala Harris is at a African American church in Pennsylvania with a whole new accent she picked up today.
Oh, did you hear this, Joan? John, did you
hear the
hear
accent.
the new Kamala accent?
Before you go on, let me just tell you what Politico said about that.
Yes.
Every day they have an alert that comes out and says who won the day. You know, did Trump win the day or did Kamala win the day?
Okay.
Almost every day, Harris wins the day. So today it was who won the day? Harris. Her events did not promote racism.
Oh, that's just dumb.
I laugh because it's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Does Harris really? Does Politico really say that? I don't pay attention to Politico all that much, but do they say that Harris really does win almost every day?
Almost every day.
That is insanity. What are they basing that on?
How you could say that about any day from this weekend after Trump did, that big event yesterday and having done Joe Rogan on Friday.
Yep.
I mean, that led everybody's conversation the whole weekend.
My wife got up before 6 a.m. to listen to it. That's how I know that this is a very big deal. And from what I'm seeing, this is now the #1 most viral podcast in the history of viral podcasts. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the I don't know what the number is right now, the number of downloads or listens or whatever it is. But I'm here to tell you that it is a lot. You know what I'd also say, Joan? I guarantee you that all of these members of the media that are demonizing the podcast of Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, and you can find the link on my X feed at Dan Mandis Show, they didn't sit through the whole 3 hour. It's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Like 3 hours long. And I listened to it twice.
Did you listen to it in one-time speed or did you speed it up? Be honest.
No, I didn't speed it up.
Okay.
Can you speed up a podcast? You mean like skip through?
Yeah, I think if you watch it on YouTube, you can.
Oh,
right?
No, we didn't speed it up. No, so I came downstairs and Amy was already watching it. So we watched it. We sat there and we hung out and we listened to it. We talked. We listened. We talked. She actually got mad at me once because I started like spewing my conservative venom, and she paused it and kind of looked at me with that irritated look on a wife's face, like, men, we all know what that means.
I don't know what that means at all.
Sure. And so she was like, shut up so I can listen to this. So the 3 hour podcast may have taken 4 hours for us to get through because I just couldn't contain myself. But no, we didn't fast forward or anything. And then I went back and I listened to the first 30 minutes that I had missed. Then I listened to it a second time to grab audio. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot there. And the Politico, speaking of a heaping pile of trash, that would be Politico if they're saying that Kamala wins all the days. But anyway, Kamala, she did roll out a new accent. Is Johnny and Joan and people on the super text line, is she trying to be Martin Luther King Jr.? Listen to what she says. Here's Kamala Harris in her new accent.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
Is this?
Oh, my gosh.
Is she trying to do Martin Luther King? Is that what she's trying to do?
Yeah, she's Marta Luther King now.
Marta? Yes,
Quoting
Marta Luther
scripture.
King. I understand. I get she's, okay, so number one, she just mocked Christians. So anybody who thinks that this is an accident, that suddenly she's quoting scripture, she's doing this because she was getting hammered last week. And what I'm sure was the day Politico said that she won the day. She kicked Christians literally out of her event.
So
Remember that? Oh, you got the wrong rally.
Yeah.
And also a Muslim man, right?
I don't remember that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Muslims are coming out, and they are, in fact, somewhere in my stories, I've got how Muslims are coming out for Donald Trump. But this is Kamala Harris with a new accent.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
Yeah, so there you go. That's Kamala Harris. Joy cometh in the morning.
I think I'm sick.
I've been weeping for like the last 3.5 years. I like a little damn joy in my life.
I would too.
Where are we at? 7:15. Got to do the traffic on WTN. $7:16 on WTN. As far as your weather goes, it is really foggy outside.
Oh, it's thick.
Like I went out to, like where everybody smokes, and it wasn't all the cigarette smoke out there that I was seeing. It's actual fog this morning.
Yes, it is. In fact, I could not see in front of my car at the house this morning.
Really?
It's so thick.
Wow.
Okay.
So I'm looking at some of the cameras that, I can see on the traffic cameras, and it shows it's really heavy. South of Nashville, like in the southern part of Nashville, and to the east, that's like where it's mostly settled.
Okay.
So, it could be anywhere, but that's really the places. So that's what's causing some delays as well at the airport.
It's also heavy here on Music Row, I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. We'll, what do you do? Low beams, high beams? What do you do when it's...
You got to do low beams.
Yeah, you got to do low beams. Yeah, high beams will just bring back the...
Reflect it right back
Listen.
at you.
Listen, if you're bummed out and worried about the fog this morning, don't worry.
Weeping may endure for a night.
Yeah.
But joy cometh in the morning.
Or fog. Or fog.
Kamala fog.
Oh, man. We've been in like a Biden malaise, a Biden fog for like 3.5 years.
Oh, man. It's just been, feels like it's been 10.
By the way, did you hear, just very quickly, did you hear what Trump said with Joe Rogan about getting Kamala onto the Joe Rogan podcast? I actually love this. This is very funny.
I thought he couched it
Can you imagine
really well.
Kamala doing this show?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You thought he couched it well?
Yeah.
Who, Rogan or?
Rogan.
He did, because he wants to get her on.
Yes.
Because he's got a lot of questions.
Right.
And she's not going to come on.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing this show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might
She
still
wasn't
do it,
gonna
and
do
I
it.
hope she does.
She's not gonna
I
do
will talk to her like a human being. I will
If
try
she
to have a
did this
conversation
kind of an
with her.
interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being. That was my goal, having her on.
No, so she's not going to come on. Because, she's not a human being who can actually have a conversation.
No.
She's not somebody who can defend her ideas. She's not somebody who can defend the last 3.5 years, and she can't withstand the scrutiny, especially after, you listen to the 3-hour podcast between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, and Rogan is absolutely, as he should, call out the leftists, because there's a lot to call out.
Young people are rejecting a lot of this woke bullshit. Young people are tired of being yelled at and scolded. They're tired of these people that they think are mentally ill telling them what the moral standards of society should be today. And people are upset.
I was shaking hands with people. They're young people.
The rebels are Republicans now. They're like, you want to be a rebel? You want to be punk rock? You want to buck the system? You're a conservative now. That's how crazy. And then the liberals are now pro-silencing criticism. They're pro-censorship online. They're talking about regulating free speech and they're regulating the First Amendment. It's bananas to watch.
And
he's spot on.
Go ahead, Kamala. Go on Joe Rogan's show. Answer to that. I love how he said that conservatives are the new rebels and what did he say, the pirates or something? I forget what exactly he said.
Yeah, but you know who said it first?
Who?
On this very radio station, Chris Hand.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, he said that exact line when he first came on here.
Really?
Yes.
Are you saying that Joe Rogan stole Chris Hand's material?
I think he did.
Wow.
Because I've heard Chris Hand say that many times.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
Somebody said on the super text line, as a matter of fact, that WTN, we've been saying this for how long? Conservative talk show hosts have been saying this before. You know what? Johnny and Joan, whatever. I know Joan's conservative, but I don't want to get her involved in all this.
Don't you dare.
But I mean, we were conservative before it was cool to be conservative.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like now you got all these other people that are jumping on the bandwagon. You know, some of these folks, not Joe Rogan, you put me in a headlock, but some of these folks were calling us conspiracy theorists before they realized that we were right.
Yeah, come on
and now they've jumped on the Trump train.
Come on in. The water's fine.
They're in the conservative car.
Yeah.
Get it? Trump train, conservative.
Yeah, I like that, Dan.
Car.
That was very good.
Whatever.
Not laughing.
I'm sorry, Joan, did you say something? 721 on Nashville. You know what? I'll just sit here and I'll play Kamala, going all black church on people. I mean, I could do that trying to be Martin Luther King if you want. People, by the way, are absolutely roasting her on social media because of that. So, by the way, we'll ask Matthew Hurt what he thinks about all of this coming up. He's going to join us at 7:35. We've got the big rally last night. I've been playing audio from the last night's big rally at Madison Square Garden, which is the front of the New York Post. That's what they're calling it today, in what some people are calling the biggest rally ever. Also, by the way, coming up, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and voter fraud. Have you seen this? They got a whole bunch of fraudulent ballots that came in. We're going to talk about that because, remember, there's no widespread voter fraud, and I'll be the first one to raise his hand, and I've been saying this for years. You don't need widespread voter fraud to steal an election. You need specific counties in specific states, and we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. It's 7:22 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Joan Jones has the news at 7:30. Joan, what's coming up?
What prosecutors are doing to cut down on gun crimes in Middle Tennessee. Also, a machete attack over the weekend, and an arrest has been made. We've got those stories coming up at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. Dan Mandis here for Window Nation. Now, this is my window company. I love these folks. They put new windows in my basement studio, my bedroom, and my kitchen as well. Now, right now, it is prime window buying time, because the weather is about to turn cold. So if your windows are going to allow the warm air out and the cold air in this winter, well, then you need to act right now, because Window Nation is looking out for you with a great special going on. Buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. That is a great deal. Window Nation has over 33,000 5-star reviews on Google and a big 5-star review from my house. Now, your new windows can be installed in a day or less, and they come with a lifetime warranty. Don't forget that great deal. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, plus pay nothing with no interest for 2 full years. Again, that is a great deal. Tell him Dan Mandis told you to reach out at 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand from 99.7 WTN. If you're thinking about advertising this year in 2025 and beyond, you have to combine the power of radio with the power of digital. We do it here flawlessly, and our sales team can hook you up with a package tailored to your exact needs. So if you want to advertise, advertise with me. Advertise with 99.7 WTN. Go to the website for more info, 997wtn.com/epic.
$7:29, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matthew Hurt is joining us after the news at about 7:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening. I'm going to tell you about my friends at Mark Spain Real Estate. You know, when the real estate market slows down, Mark Spain can really help you out with the guaranteed offer. Now, with the guaranteed offer, there's no showings, no open houses, and no stress. Absolutely hassle-free. You know, fall can be a busy time, and trying to sell your home can be overwhelming. With the guaranteed offer, you'll be on the market, get an all-cash offer, and close within days. And the best part of all of this? No stress. Now, they've got over 12,000 five-star reviews, and you can trust Mark Spain to sell your home fast and for the most money. So call them at 855-299-SOLD. 855-299-SOLD. You can find them online anytime. As always, markspain.com to find out what your guaranteed offer would be on your home today. That's markspain.com and start packing.
7:30 now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Got to watch it this morning. There is a dense fog advisory for a couple of spots. You'll notice that fog out there this morning. It'll clear away later on. We'll have a mostly sunny day, and we've got your forecast coming up in just a couple of moments. A new effort to prevent violent crime in the Nashville area. Acting U.S. Attorney for Middle Tennessee, Thomas Jaworski, says the program is called Operation Bond Watch. It aims at stopping defendants who are out on bond for serious violent crimes from illegally possessing firearms before their day in court.
I feel like I wake up almost every morning and turn on the news and see that someone was shot last night. And if we don't step in and do something, no one's going to. And so that's my hope, is that there's less violence, that Nashville becomes and continues to be the hospitable place for tourism, for people to move here, for businesses to relocate here.
Now, if someone out on bond for a serious violent crime is found with a firearm, prosecutors can now seek immediate federal charges against that person. In Nashville, police continue searching for a man who was caught on camera brutally attacking another man. 59-year-old James Sutton in the intersection of South 5th Street and Russell Street in East Nashville. Sutton died of his injuries. He was found still lying in the street. This nearby neighbor tells Channel 4 the attack is a shock.
I walk around here a lot with my dog, and I've never had anything happen to me. I've never seen anything crazy like that. I feel like I'm generally pretty safe. I walk during the daylight hours. But yeah, I'm concerned for other people living nearby.
Police are hoping the public can help them identify the attacker. And a man who used a machete to threaten neighbors who were having a bonfire has been arrested. This happened on Saturday night in Madison. Police say Angel Aguilar Domingo was apparently intoxicated when he sliced through some bushes with that machete and then broke a car window with it. He's in jail now on $100,000 bail and facing 4 felony counts. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures are on the rise. Dow futures up 107, NASDAQ futures up 115, and the S&P futures are gaining 24 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 7:32 on Super Talk 99.7. Did you know that you're funding America's future? And it's not the future you want for you or your kids, because most major credit cards funnel millions of dollars to liberal causes and candidates, hoping that you don't notice. Well, take a stand and get woke out of your wallet. Coin is the conservative's credit card. You earn cash back while advancing a conservative future. Apply now at coin.com. Spelling is important. COIGN. That's coin.com. Check it out. They are your conservative values credit card. Coin.com/disclosures for full details. Coin.com.
Looks like our fog problem is spreading this morning. It's a dense fog advisory right now. Davidson and Wilson counties, very poor visibility reported in some spots. So 24 westbound Clarksville at Sengo Road overpass, a crash there. It's been stop and go for quite a long time. Also a crash in Lakewood, Old Hickory Boulevard near Pitts Avenue. An accident Goodlettsville, Dry Creek Road at Hills Hollow Road. Also an accident in Joelton at 24 eastbound lanes, New Hope Road, that's exit 31. And an accident as well in Lebanon, 40 westbound Highway 109. And then also the South Loop, you've got that trouble spot this morning. It's construction, 40 South Loop, the exit to 210B. You only have the left lane available to traffic. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Appreciate you listening with Johnny B and Joan Jones. I'm Dan Mandis. How are you? Guy is listening from the Kentucky-Tennessee border. And he says we're a little staticky, but he appreciates all that we do. Don't forget, you can always listen on the myriad of apps that we have. You can also watch us or listen to us, whatever you want, on Facebook and also Twitter, Twitch, 997WTN.com, so on and so forth. We are all over the place. So if you want to listen to us static-free, you can always find us online. Matthew Hurt is joining us on the Super Text line, Super Talk line. And Matthew, how are you?
You know, it was a pretty good weekend for Donald Trump. That Joe Rogan interview has already racked up 33 million views on YouTube and millions more on the various platforms where you can find it. But I'm sure we're going to talk about Kill Tony at Madison Square Garden last night. So I'll let you run with that.
So it was funny, Matthew, because Johnny and I just during the break were trying to figure out, okay, so how many people have watched this thing? I mean, it's millions. So I got a couple of things. Number one, Joan and I were talking earlier, and I was surprised to learn. I'm not somebody who reads Politico a whole heck of a lot, but she's telling me that Politico has the winners of the day, I guess, on a daily basis. And she says that by and large, Kamala Harris, even over the last couple of weeks, where it is clear that she's the loser of the day, they're still calling her the winner of the day. How can any publication look themselves in the mirror and say that Kamala Harris is a winner of the day when you've got Donald Trump at 33 million views or watches or whatever with this interview with Joe Rogan, not to mention that incredible rally last night?
Well, Politico is written by folks in the swamp, for folks in the swamp. I can't imagine its readership expands too far beyond the Beltway here in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. And it is the kind of affirming, quote-unquote, journalism that people expect to read up here. But you're absolutely right. Donald Trump has had the last several weeks, he has been at rally after rally. He has appeared on a number of podcasts in this space, in sort of the Tony Hinchcliffe, Joe Rogan, Theo Von space, and seeping into the culture in a way that picks up those voters who don't pay attention to what's being published at Politico and who don't pay attention to what's happening on, the headline news in the evenings.
Matthew, I want to play you a piece of audio. It's turned into my favorite piece of audio of the day. This actually aired on MSNBC when they're walking around and talking to voters.
I've heard so much about Trump being angry and he's a fascist and a dictator, but problem is when I listen to him, I don't hear any of that.
The stunning thing is, Matthew, that aired on MSNBC. That clearly wasn't live. So they chose to air that, and I don't know if it matters to anybody, but that guy is black, and he looks like he's about maybe 45, 50, 55 years old. And basically, that's MSNBC sort of admitting that a good part of their narrative is a bunch of BS, because the guy's saying, all y'all do is talk about how he's Hitler, and then I listen to him talk, and he's not.
Well, J.D. Vance did a couple of podcasts over the last few weeks, and Trump did Joe Rogan. And when you read the comments, in the comments section, I normally advise people against, but it is a lot of comments that sound like this. Donald Trump sounds like a normal guy. J.D. Vance sounds like a pretty smart guy, pretty normal guy. And that's what we're seeing when we break down the facade of whatever the mainstream media has built up, the way they lie about these two gentlemen, the way they misconstrue the truth, and people actually hear their words and get a vibe for their sentiment, how they communicate. It is completely different than how the mainstream media portrays them, and more people are seeing that in the last 8 days of the election.
Do you know what I've noticed is that, and I think that people are probably kind of like me, where there's great audio out there, and I'm not going to play the whole thing right now, but you've probably seen it. J.D. Vance and Jake Tapper, and they are going back and forth, and basically it's J.D. Vance calling out Jake Tapper and CNN for their faulty reporting on Russian collusion years ago. And J.D. Vance is letting Jake Tapper have it. And Tapper, he starts getting, his voice starts getting higher. He starts getting really defensive. Same thing with Kirsten Welker. It was a really good weekend for Jake Tapper. One of the things that I'm noticing, Matthew, is that it's almost like become sport now for J.D. Vance to start taking out these reporters and these esteemed news anchors, where he's calling them on their BS. And I think there's roughly half of America, we're watching this as sport. It's almost like wrestling, where our favorite wrestler is, throwing the enemy down to the mat. It's become something, at least for me, something that I look forward to, seeing J.D. Vance put these reporters and anchors in their place.
I think the first big broadcast with J.D. Vance on a Sunday show, you and I came in the next week, and I said ultimately the same thing. He is surgical in the way that he actively listens to the question. Yep. He will debunk or refuse the premise, and then he will explain exactly the position that either Donald Trump or the campaign has taken. And it is so refreshing to see someone who can so articulately meander and navigate through the mistruths and lies and miscommunication of the mainstream media to tell the American people the truth. And a couple of million people may see it on a Sunday morning, but then these clips go out and people watch it, they talk about it, they hear about it on a program like this, and it really sets the tone for the remainder of the week for what it means or what the campaign is trying to put out there. J.D. Vance is an excellent communicator. We saw it at the vice presidential debate, and we see it almost every Sunday. It's an excellent thing, and if and when these two are elected next Tuesday, J.D. Vance should spend a bunch of his Sunday mornings on these programs talking about the administration's agenda.
744, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matthew Hurt is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Matthew, I've got a bunch more questions for you. Going to check the roads real quick, then we'll come back. We're going to talk about the mega rally last night in Madison Square Garden, because I think that was an incredible rally, despite the fact that the left tried to portray this as some sort of a Nazi rally. I think this is really beginning to backfire on the media. Details straight ahead. Time to check the roads. .745, Nashville's Morning News. Partly cloudy today, a high of 81. Right now, 51 degrees and a bunch of fog. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matthew, you and I spoke at great length about the fact that the media was trying to portray this mega rally at Madison Square Garden. Front page of the New York Post today was mega Square Garden. And I think that the media, they keep going down this road of Donald Trump and this rally being, sort of like a Hitler kind of rally, a fascist rally, and all that other stuff. And I think that it's going to backfire on them. It's because, as I mentioned previously, people are watching these rallies, they're listening to these clips, and they're realizing that this is not being advertised appropriately by the Democrats. This is Tim Walz yesterday.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
What a putsy dolt. That, of course, is Tim Walz. But you hear him, and he's just bloviating BS.
We are in the final days of a flailing Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign, and what we're seeing now is this desperation and fear in trying to equivocate Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. And what it appears as though is this attack is falling flat on the American people. You just played a clip of an African-American gentleman on MSNBC who seemed to break down that and reject the notion by just saying, he seems like a normal guy to me. And more people who watch these events directly say, Donald Trump seems relatable. J.D. Vance seems relatable. None of these attacks, or very few of these attacks, are going to land, and it just desensitizes people to the actual problem and to our actual history of the Holocaust and the threat of Nazi Germany in the 1930s. It does a disservice. And what we've also seen at the end of last week, there was a really good video of a Holocaust survivor who basically said, "How dare you, Kamala Harris, compare Donald Trump to Hitler?" The gentleman in the video said, "I survived the Holocaust, and this is absolutely a terrible comparison," and indicated that he was voting for Donald Trump. So I think these attacks are falling flat. I know from a call with the Trump campaign last night that Kamala Harris is frantically moving staff from other states to Virginia because Virginia is in play. Okay. And so we are seeing things, we're seeing the campaign moving in real time very quickly in states like Pennsylvania and Virginia and Michigan, where Muslim leaders came out in support of Donald Trump over the weekend as well. The tone is changing very quickly, and we're moving toward an election day where Donald Trump may very well surprise voters in a number of states.
The gentleman you're referring to, 94-year-old Jerry Wartsky, and I've got that audio that you're talking about. I'm going to play it coming up in the next hour here on Nashville's Morning News, because you're right, that is so impactful, because he basically says Kamala Harris, and it goes right into what you and I have been saying, Matthew. He accuses Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and all these other people of sanitizing Adolf Hitler by comparing him to Donald Trump, knowing full right well that Adolf Hitler killed 6 million Jews. And you have the Democrats saying, oh, Donald Trump is just like Adolf Hitler, and you're sanitizing Hitler. That makes you, meaning the Democrats, incredibly anti-Semitic. And I love what Wartsky says, which is the Democrats owe the Holocaust survivors and their families an apology. Now, it would be great if somebody would actually ask Kamala Harris, will you apologize? And you can ask the same thing of Karine Jean-Pierre. Do you apologize for, equating Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler? I would love if somebody would actually ask them the question. Real quick, Real Clear Politics, it looks like when you look at the battleground states, this is not good for the Democrats, because in the battleground states, you look at Michigan, Pennsylvania. Michigan, Trump is up 0.2. Pennsylvania, 0.5. Wisconsin, Trump is up 0.3. Arizona, Trump up 1.5. North Carolina, 0.8 is Trump in the lead. And Georgia, 2.3. I mean, that is... it's been going up steadily, and you think Trump is going to ride this all the way to Election Day, knowing that it's still too close to call?
As we've talked about this before, one poll doesn't tell us much, but a series of polls show a trend.
It's
and
Real Clear Politics.
These are a series of polls and an average that show a trend where Donald Trump is peaking at just the right time. I was a little concerned a couple of weeks ago that he was going to peak in mid-October, but this seems to be trending in the right direction, where we have early voting is going on. Republican turnout is higher than it's ever been. Even in Virginia, early voting, there's an 18-point swing for in-person early voting in favor of Republicans. And we're seeing this all over the place. And I think as we go into these next 8 days, it is important for the campaign and for activists and supporters to put their foot on the gas and keep doing what they're doing to get as many of your friends, if you're listening to this, as many of your friends in Tennessee and around the country to go out and vote. I think this election is going to shock a lot of people, but we've got to do our part.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let me ask you, some people are saying that in our closing moments here, some people are saying that we'll actually know before November 5th if Donald Trump is going to win or Kamala Harris is going to win simply by the early voting. In other words, if we look at Pennsylvania and the early voting, I know how Pennsylvania exactly does their early voting. But if we start to find out that Pennsylvania is definitely trending in Donald Trump's favor, knowing that early voting by and large has been a Democrat thing, and Republicans coming out on voting day, election day, is more of a Republican thing. What do you think? When will we actually know if Trump is, going to win this campaign? And it all hinges, of course, on Pennsylvania.
I'm not quite ready to put my money on that assessment, but the polls close on the East Coast in a number of states at 7 p.m. That's when they close it in Virginia, and we will start to know by 8 or 8:30, which is 7 or 7:30 for most of your listeners. And if the numbers look good in Virginia, if they look good in Pennsylvania, by 10 o'clock Eastern, we may very well have a pretty good idea. If Virginia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania seem to be falling for Donald Trump, then what we're going to see is Michigan and Wisconsin and Nevada and Arizona and Donald Trump. Again, I don't like making predictions, but if he runs the table in the first few hours, it will be a very good night for Donald Trump.
All right, but then the question is, what about overseas ballots? A lot of people are making a big deal about the overseas ballots. Also, over the weekend, there was a story about all of these ballots that were found in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that turned out to be fraudulent as well. So, and by the way, Trump took Lancaster County in the last 2 elections. So does that worry you? Does that concern you, these overseas ballots suddenly coming in almost like a ballot dump? And how concerned are you about voter fraud in Pennsylvania?
We have to keep an eye on these, and luckily the Republican Party and Chairman Michael Whatley has built out a robust operation to tackle voter fraud and ensure election integrity in these states. If you see something, say something, and I think that we've got enough folks on the ground to keep an eye on that sort of thing. I am less concerned this year about Pennsylvania than, say, in 2020, where unelected bureaucrats changed the rules in the middle of the game.
Yep.
But it is certainly something we want to keep an eye on.
Matthew, how can people find you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter at Matthew Hurt, MattheWHurtt.
All right. Thank you, Matthew. It is 7:54 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news at 8?
We have the latest on a terror attack in Israel today. Also, there's a measure of hope in Unicoi County where a road is about to reopen to traffic. Those stories coming up at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck.
Good morning, 8:01 now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Want to let you know that there is an accident in Brentwood on 65. This is the northbound lanes at exit 71. The center lane is blocked. We'll have more on that coming up in traffic, along with your forecast in a couple of minutes. Interstate 26 in Unicoi County is expected to reopen within the next couple of weeks, according to the Tennessee Department of Transportation. Crews are working toward restoring one lane of traffic in each direction after Helene hit that region last month. In the meantime, TDOT says it does continue repaving other portions of the I-26 roadway that were damaged by floodwaters. Vanderbilt University Medical Center is recruiting volunteers for an Alzheimer's study. It's called the Vanderbilt Memory and Aging Project. Participants are required to have a blood test, brain and heart scans, and eventually a spinal tap. Paige Thompson tells Channel 4 her dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and that's why she's in the study.
I participated in this study because I want to make a difference, and this is how we get to a cure for this disease, is studying it. And my dad would do this for me in a heartbeat, and so I want to do it for him.
Right now, there are 900 Tennesseans taking part in the study. Vanderbilt is seeking 100 more. They say they're in need of black men and women over the age of 50. Google the term Vanderbilt Memory and Aging Project to find out more about it. A suspected terror attack Sunday inside Israel, hours after Israeli airstrikes were fired on Iran. Authorities are looking to see if there was any motivation behind the truck ramming of several civilians at a bus stop.
Israeli police investigating a potential terror attack after a truck plowed into a crowded bus stop near Tel Aviv, killing a 72-year-old man and injuring more than 30 others. The driver, who police say was an Israeli Arab citizen, shot dead by armed civilians at the scene. The incident coming a day after Israel launched its largest ever direct attack on Iran, following a massive Iranian missile barrage earlier this month.
That's ABC foreign correspondent Britt Clennant reporting from Tel Aviv. In Smith County, a horse has died after getting stuck in a muddy pond. It happened yesterday when crews arrived at the scene last evening. The 25-year-old horse had been stuck for a long period of time in a pond that was dry, but the mud was very thick. Eventually, the horse had to be euthanized. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Ahead of the opening bell here, we've got futures on the rise. Dow futures up 164, NASDAQ futures gaining 144, and the S&P futures are up 30. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Still has some problems with fog this morning. Careful. Also, Talbot's Corner, 65 southbound at Trinity Lane, exit 67. Make that 87. There is a crash reported. Another crash in Forest Hills. This is on Old Hickory Boulevard, east of Kingsbury Drive. An accident, Goodlettsville, Dry Creek Road at Hills Hollow Road and Gallatin Pike north of Coode Lane. There's an accident. That one's in Goodlettsville. And a crash as well. Hillsborough, West End. It's on West End Avenue at I-440. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Information fueled,
opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
8:07 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, along with Joan Jones, Johnny B, Dan Mandis here. How are you? I got a lot to get to here. Coming up, why does George Stephanopoulos look like somebody farted in the car with him? He does. Somebody is describing for him the scene there at Madison Square Garden, and the look on Stephanopoulos' face is like, are you kidding me? Really? You're coming with this?
So he looks like Martha Raddatz, eh?
He looks like Martha Raddatz. He's clearly not happy that it sounds like Trump propaganda, but in reality, it's the truth. Aaron sent me this audio I'm going to play coming up, but I want to make sure that I get this in. Earlier, I was speaking to Matthew Hurt about how it's almost become sport these days to watch J.D. Vance as he is taking on these news anchors like, Kirsten Welker and others, and Jake Tapper, among others. And so I'm going to play you some audio. This is great audio because what he's doing is he is turning Jake Tapper, putting him on his heels because Tapper is, in my opinion, quite frankly, asking irrelevant questions. Listen.
Agrees with that, but he's talking about you do based on the way you're asking the question. Based on the fact that he's accused people that didn't break the law of breaking the law when it comes to the election. And if you want to revisit that, I'm happy to. But Liz Cheney, he said, should be put before a war tribunal. None of that sounds fascist to you at all?
No, of course it doesn't.
Putting Liz Cheney before a military tribunal?
First of all, I don't buy into the premise of what you're saying, Jake, because I just on things that I know that he said, on things that I know that he said, you're imputing things, you're taking words out of context, you're taking two separate conversations and pretending that they were made at the exact same time. So I'm rejecting the premise of your question. I frankly don't believe what you're saying about Donald Trump's words. If you'd like to put up a clip and actually put him in context, I think the American people would realize that Donald Trump is a hell of a lot more reasonable than the people like Liz Cheney who would like to lie us into war. Now, Jake, we also have to remember, step back a little bit. Well, ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it, and so we covered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016. No. That was totally and preposterously false.
No. Well, that's what you just said is false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care most about?
I'm talking about things that Donald Trump has said.
Yeah.
See, J.D. Vance is absolutely right. He can go toe-to-toe with Jake Tapper all day long. We can talk about CNN and their faulty reporting, their biased reporting all day long. But what J.D. Vance is saying is absolutely true. How about talking about something that actually matters? And quite frankly, what Donald Trump says about Liz Cheney, I have no idea what the former president said about Liz Cheney. I'm no fan of Liz Cheney, but I like what J.D. Vance is saying. Because part of what Jake Tapper is saying is, well, Donald Trump said it. Do you know how many things Donald Trump says on the campaign trail? But they're pulled the little soundbite, the little snippet about Liz Cheney to whatever he said to try and prove their point that Donald Trump is Hitler or is going to use the Department of Justice against his political enemies. That's what they're trying to do instead of talking about the issues that really the American people care about and impacts our lives.
If you have an issue with whether or not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and your running mate. I'm talking about things he has said this week.
Every single rally that he does,
Yeah, and that's what J.D. Vance is saying. Every single rally that Donald Trump does, it's several hours long, and he talks about the border. He speaks about the economy. He talks about crime. He talks about all of that stuff. But they'll go out. This is the, and listen, maybe this is a Trump issue. I don't know. But they'll go after Donald Trump for some sort of a side joke or side comment about Liz Cheney, whatever it is that he said. And it might be a joke. But the thing is, they'll report it, and I like what J.D. Vance says, which is, why don't you put up the clip? And that's what I don't understand. Why don't you, Jake Tapper, put up the clip instead of just reading Donald Trump's quote? Put up the clip. Because if they did, then it would prove that they were taking Donald Trump's words out of context. That's why I play so much audio, because I want to make sure that you understand the entire context. So I think Jake Tapper, and I'm going to repost this. I think I already did. Yeah, I reposted that. So if you follow me on X, you can see that. It's close to the top. But, I mean, Tapper is getting really angry. He's getting really upset. And if you go on the internet today, if you go on X today, you'll see that J.D. Vance, he had all kinds of fights with Jake Tapper, with Kirsten Welker, I'm sure with others as well. Because he's calling them out on the improper way that they're doing their jobs. Because Donald Trump will make an aside comment about something, and, well, it's just, you know what it's like? Here's the perfect example. When Trump said that he was going to be a dictator on day one. Remember that? It was a sort of like a side comment. Are you going to be a dictator? And Donald Trump, I think he was on Hannity's show. And he said, Hannity asked Trump, you're going to be a dictator? And Donald Trump said, on day one. Because he said that he's going to sign a whole bunch of executive orders. That's what he meant. Well, the left and the media and morons like Jake Tapper and Kirsten Welker say, well, the president said he was going to be a dictator. Put the thing in its proper context. This is what the media does. And see, this is why I believe that the Democrats are losing, and the media, this is why they're losing their credibility. They're losing their credibility because they're focused on the wrong things. This is Jonathan Karl, and he's on with George Stephanopoulos. John, is Stephanopoulos on the Today Show or Good Morning America? Which one is he?
Good Morning America.
So it's a bad morning for George Stephanopoulos because Jonathan Karl was on, I guess this was this morning, Aaron sent this to me, and Karl was at the big Trump rally last night, and he's on with Stephanopoulos, and this is how he describes this amazing event.
Look, I was there for about 6 hours yesterday. First thing I've got to say, Madison Square Garden was packed. People waited hours to get in. They sat through hour after hour of this rally. They were fervent in their devotion to all things Trump. Trump has created a movement. There is no doubt. I cannot think of another Republican figure of my lifetime who could have come into a Democratic city like New York and put together anything like that.
I mean, and George Stephanopoulos, if you look at the video, I mean, it looks like somebody, tooted in the elevator. I mean, that's what it looks like. That's what his face looks like. He's not happy. And, when he's talking about this, when Jonathan Karl is talking about this, let me tell you something. He's no fan of Donald Trump. And so for Jonathan Karl to say that to another no fan of Donald Trump, George Stephanopoulos, then to me, I think that it's funny as all get out. It really is. And for Donald Trump, you know what? There's a lot of things that he has said, not only in the rally, but also with Joe Rogan, that were really, really good. Meantime, you have Donald Trump and his big rally, and you just heard Jonathan Karl talk about how you had all of these people that were waiting and listening through all of these different speeches and so forth. Then you had what happened at the Kamala Harris rally in Texas over the weekend, where Beyonce came out for like 4 minutes and then she said goodbye and people got ticked off.
Thank you.
They thought she was going to play a show, and she didn't. And now they're leaving.
See you later.
Yep.
See you later.
People are leaving. See, that's the difference. So you got all these people in Texas, and Beyonce shows up. They build it, by the way, apparently as a concert. They bill it as a concert. Beyonce comes out, spends 4.5 minutes talking about how she endorses Kamala Harris, and then she leaves. And so Kamala Harris is left with a crowd that is rapidly thinning. They're booing, and she eventually is relegated, to people, saying to the folks that are leaving, "See you later."
See you later.
Yeah.
See you later.
See you later.
Hope she says that on Election Day.
I was going to say, Johnny, very good. That's what I was thinking as well. Let's say that to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, certainly, on Election Day. But think about the difference between those two rallies. That's the thing that I think is so important, is the difference between those two rallies. All right, very quickly, check the traffic on WTN. #818 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As far as your weather today, partly cloudy, a high of 81. I don't know, is it still foggy outside? It's still foggy in some places, and appreciate you listening to Super Talk 99.7. 51 degrees. Now, you know that the left have been calling Donald Trump a Nazi and a racist and all these other things, and this was Tim Walz before Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally.
Donald Trump has descended into madness over the last few weeks. And I think some of you don't miss on this. Go do your Google on this. Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there.
Right, and Hillary said this.
Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. I write about this in my book. President Franklin Roosevelt was appalled that neo-Nazis, fascists in America were lining up to essentially pledge their support for the kind of government that they were seeing in Germany.
All right, so you got the left, and they're screaming about how Donald Trump is a Nazi, and this is a remake of that 1939 rally. A guy who got really offended at all of this is a guy by the name of Jerry Wartsky. Now, Jerry is 94 years old, and his parents and a good number of his family, they were killed in Auschwitz.
I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the death marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old.
Yep.
He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes.
He's 94 years old. He still has the tattoos on his arm from Auschwitz. He still got that tattoo of being in the concentration camps. And he survived, but his family didn't. He also, of course, survived the death marches as well. He did escape to America 75 years ago, but this survivor of Auschwitz is watching and listening as Tim Walz and Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris talk about how Donald Trump is like Hitler, and he's trying to say to these Democrats in the media as well, I've dealt with Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler killed his entire family. Donald Trump is no Adolf Hitler.
For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
Yeah, and I agree. Matthew Hurt and I were talking about this earlier, where they owe an apology to all of those people whose families were impacted, i.e. killed, by Adolf Hitler. Eric Adams is the mayor of New York. He said this over the weekend.
I had those terms hurled at me by some political leaders in the city, using terms like Hitler and fascist. My answer is no. I know what Hitler has done, and I know what a fascist regime looks like. The level of conversation, I think we could all dial down the temperature.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's absolutely right. But as we all keep saying, if this is all you got, Democrats, if this is really your final argument.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Then you're in a lot of trouble. 822 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, if you're interested in seeing the video of Jerry Worski, you can find it on my X feed at Dan Mandis Show. It is 8:23. Dan Mandis here. My company for foundation repair and concrete leveling is United Structural Systems. They fixed my foundation, and they can help you with yours as well. Now, they're awesome, easy to work with, and above all, competent and reasonable. Now, if you notice doors and windows are sticking, uneven floors, maybe gaps between the trim and the ceiling, these are all signs that you might have a possible foundation issue, and nobody does it better than USS, United Structural Systems. They've been serving Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they've helped thousands of satisfied homeowners with great work and communication as well. USS, for all your foundation, concrete leveling, and waterproofing needs. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. I'm a client, 615-488-7855. 615-488-7855, online, USSTN.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck. 829, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't know if Joan is listening, but I want to know if you folks kill the music, John. It's killing me. Do you think, Joan, and John, you can chime in too. We're going to do this to Chris Hand because I know he's not listening. He's talking to somebody. So, Joan, do you think Chris will know? Johnny needs some audio. Do you think Johnny and Joan, do you think Chris will know what this is?
Yes.
You think Chris will know what that is?
Yeah, he'll know that.
You've already...
Have I already done this to Chris?
Yes, you have.
Dang it. I'm not even 57 and I'm already running out of material.
There's this Alzheimer's study that's going on at Vanderbilt right now. If you have to get involved.
This is why Amy's already bored with me after only a few years. Whatever. Have I done my Loan Pronto? Have I done my Loan Pronto commercial yet?
Well, it'd be a good time to do it, Dan.
You know what? I'm going to do it anyway.
Go ahead.
With Chris Hand.
Why
I'm
not?
going to do it
Okay.
anyway.
All right.
Now, we'll see. Okay. So, like with old people that have Alzheimer's, and I know because I've had my stepmom had Alzheimer's.
Well,
do you think Chris will be like nice enough not to call me out on my Danheimers?
No.
Or do you think he'll say, you already did that?
Yeah.
You already asked me that.
I think he's totally going to call you out.
Is he going to call me out?
Yeah.
Well, we've had 4 years of Biden. I mean,
it's exactly right. Forgetfulness has been normalized.
Yes, it has.
Moving right
It's
along.
almost hip.
You could run the country. You could have your hand on nuclear bombs. You know.
Sure.
While you're sitting on the beach.
Yeah.
All right.
Eating ice cream cones.
Can I do my commercial, please? By the way, a WTN staffer was mentioned by Donald Trump during the Joe Rogan podcast. We're going to do that as well on WTN. I know I already did it at 535. Shut up. What if you could take all of your high-interest debt, like credit cards and car loans, and just consolidate everything into one lower payment and get it done by January? Now, Loan Pronto can do that, so stop stressing and call Loan Pronto today to get started. Now, look, we've got the lowest rates in 2 years, so right now is the perfect chance to use your home's equity and save big time going into the new year. They've got rates with APRs in the low fives, and they're getting homeowners hundreds of thousands of dollars out of their home's equity. Homeowners who do this can save on average $850 a month. Loan Pronto offers a ton of options, including total refis or their Express Equity line of credit. So call them now, get a rate quote in just minutes with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees like those other guys. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out. You won't make a house payment till 2025. 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780. LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Good morning. It's 8:32 now, and I'm Joan Jones with the latest news. Early voting ends in Tennessee this week, and so far voter turnout has surpassed 30%. The Secretary of State's office says that turnout is better than it was in 2016, but not as good as the 2020 election. Now, there are some hardy voters in Williamson County and Loudoun County where voter turnout is above 40%. Davidson County, it's at about 20%. In 2020, Davidson County was at this point was at 26%. Shelby County has seen the biggest decrease in early voters so far. Early voting will end on Thursday. That's the 31st. A woman was arrested after a license plate reader alerted police to a stolen U-Haul. Mount Juliet police say they got an alert from the reader yesterday afternoon and intercepted the truck at Pleasant Grove Road within minutes. A 37-year-old woman from Nashville was arrested. That truck had been reported stolen from Nashville in September. And a small plane crashed last evening just south of Lexington, Kentucky, killing the two people on board. Police say the aircraft was a single-powered parachute craft that crashed in a field. Now, police believe the two people on board were a husband and wife. They say the husband was an experienced pilot and had been flying for about 20 years. The NTSB is arriving on the scene to begin their investigation this morning. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather's next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 8:34 on WTN. You know, working so early in the morning, that first cup of coffee is crucial. So is the second and third, by the way. But listen, for me, I drink Space Cowboy coffee. Now, this is a great coffee company, a local coffee company. I depend on Space Cowboy coffee to get me going each and every morning. It is my new favorite coffee. It really does inspire me to get downstairs and start brewing that first cup and get to show prep. Now, this is, again, a great local company based here in Nashville, and they've got a lot of fans, including me. And right now, if you use promo code Dan, you're going to get 10% off and free shipping when you order $50 or more. So take it from the coffee snob. Space Cowboy coffee is incredible, and my current favorite is their all-new espresso. They're going to be out at our election night party on the 5th, helping all of us get through the night. You can buy some online or buy some that night. Find them online at spacecowboycoffee.com and use promo code Dan. Spacecowboycoffee.com, promo code Dan. This is a terrific brand, and they're available in K-Cups, whole bean, or ground. It is the right way to wake up with Space Cowboy Coffee.
We still have spots with heavy fog. Be careful this morning. Got a crash reported 65 northbound past I-40 West. That's exit 84A and B. Also, a crash on the North Loop. The two right lanes are blocked off here. This is 65 in the southbound lanes at past the I-24, I-65 North exit. Also, a crash blocking off the left shoulder in Talbot's Corner on 65 southbound at I-24 downtown, and then a crash in Forest Mills as well at Old Hickory Boulevard east of Kingsbury Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
8:39 Nashville's Morning. I remember to talk. 8:39 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk.
But there was a deep sigh right before he went on. I don't understand what.
And he was looking right at me.
You know, the deep sigh is just because it has been a rambunctious kind of a show. And we've had a lot of fun. And Chris, I want to know, you recognize this, Chris? You know what that is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Have we played we played this game before? It's the Brady Bunch. Right?
Yes.
I am.
Slam dunk.
I'm 56. I'm apparently out of material. I can't. You know, all y'all need to treat me like your 90-year-old uncle. Just look at me and smile and nod your head.
Sure. We've never done that before, Dan.
Wow.
Well, all right, let's reset the bit. Play it again, Dan. Let's try this from the top.
Hey, Chris. You know what that is?
Gee, Dan, what is that?
It's a Brady Bunch.
He's such a nice man.
Well, oh,
that's Brady Bunch.
I recall they used to play that on the Nick at Night.
Yes, they did. They did. Anyway, now they're talking about they wanted to do a new updated version of Brady Bunch with all the kids now as adults. And they were going to be like Roseanne, where they've all got different political proclivities.
Okay.
Greg was going to be like a hardcore Reagan kind of Republican. Cindy was going to be more of like an independent kind of a person.
Okay.
Jan was going to be, and this is so fitting, Jan was going to be a whiner.
A cat lady for Harris?
Yeah. She was. I bet you Jan would have had purple hair because she was the whiner of the bunch.
And she'd be going, Trump, Trump, Trump.
And
while wearing Birkenstocks.
Yes. While wearing Birkenstocks. She'd be all granola-like. But anyway, so actually, no, I can't say that because last time I talked about like women being granola-like, I actually had granola women get mad at me because we're not like that.
No, the crunchy granola women are now conservatives.
The red-pilled moms club.
Red-pilled moms club. Yeah.
There you go.
They're part of the MAHA alliance. We like them.
MAHA?
Yeah, Make America Healthy Again.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
okay.
we like that.
So apparently, though, the Brady Bunch, the people at the network decided no, they weren't going to do that because, as Susan Olsen says, Cindy Brady says, they didn't like her politics because they say that she's basically, and I'm going to paraphrase here, an insurrectionist and an anti-vaxxer. Isn't that pretty much mainstream, though, these days? Like being I'm going to air quote the term anti-vaxxer because what she has specifically said, by and large, is talking about vaccine injuries and that kind of a thing. And it's perfectly, to me anyway, and maybe I'm in my own conservative bubble, but isn't it pretty much standard these days to question whether or not our elections are free and fair elections?
I would think so. It was fine for the Democrats to do that pre-2016.
Oh, yeah.
Sure was.
You know,
They did it all the time.
I think Stacey Abrams is still questioning the election that she lost for governor in Georgia.
She is, actually.
But you know, that show would have been awful because Greg wouldn't have been, or which one was going to be conservative?
Greg would have been the Reagan Republican.
Yeah, but he would have been more like a Kinzinger Republican.
Yeah.
You know, shooting steel plates at 5 to 7 yards.
Yeah, and Marcia would have been totally Taylor Swift. You know, her kids would have turned her on to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you're probably right.
She'd be following her.
So would Peter or Bobby be like the transgender, you know, whatever?
Probably
which
Bobby.
I don't want to think about
Didn't they
it.
add a new cousin later in the show?
Cousin Oliver would be the transgender
Cousin
person.
Oliver would have been the transgender person.
Yeah, he looked like
By the way,
John,
did
John
you-
Denver.
That's exactly right. By the way, did you hear, Chris, that one of our coworkers was mentioned during the whole Joe Rogan thing? Did you know this?
No.
Here's what he said. Dang it!
I like that better.
No, that was
I like that one. I like that one better.
But the weave is very important. Very few weavers around.
Ken Weaver. He talked about Ken Weaver.
He sure did.
I always called Ken Weaves.
We should put that on the hotkey. The weave is very important.
That's right.
But the weave is very important. Very few weavers around.
So, you know what?
And then that needs to be, boom, right into the news bed in the afternoon.
That's what we need to do.
There you go.
Ken, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Brian, you're welcome.
And, you know, he's not the only one. I mean, even Joe Biden even talked about one of our other employees here at Super Talk.
Get ready, Bal. You're going in for a problem.
Let's talk about Bell.
He was going after Bell.
Bell.
Get ready, Bal. You're going in for a problem.
Get ready, Bell.
I think mine's better.
But the weave is very important. Very few weavers around.
I'm not competitive at all.
No, you're not.
I like it. I like
do
it
too.
a lot.
I love it.
Anyway, that's great. So I wonder if Ken will, show me some appreciation. Because I looked for that, dude. I heard that, like, just behind the scenes. I heard that driving with Amy. And I had to go back. I looked for that for like 45 minutes.
I knew it.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, where did he say that? I'm like asking Amy, where in the 3 hours was it?
Timestamp. Give me a timestamp.
What was weird is when I was watching that Saturday morning, which I guess I was watching at the same time Amy was, I thought Dan is going to use this.
Oh, of course Dan would. Because Dan's dumb. I do that
predictable.
stuff.
I wouldn't have said that.
That was good.
You're just predictable.
Do you know what my... man, you guys are just being mean today.
We are observant.
Yes, very.
That's not helping.
Sorry.
It's okay. You know what I say to you, Joan?
Thank you.
I'm booing you. That's what I say to you, Joan.
I was hoping so bad that you played the Brady Bunch theme again.
Yeah, I was too. I was praying for the Brady Bunch.
Wasn't that a great moment when Kamala Harris was being booed because Beyonce?
Which moment of Kamala being booed over the weekend? It seemed like every rally she was being booed over the weekend.
Was she?
She had a heckler too, right?
Yep, Kalamazoo, she was getting it.
Yeah.
What happened in Kalamazoo?
Somebody called her a real piece of bleep.
Yelled
Screamed
it out.
at her.
Yeah.
Screamed it at her.
So moving forward, if we want to use the SH word on the radio, I can just say you're a real piece of Kamala.
There you go.
Jeez.
There you go.
I'm kidding. Wow.
Hey, the program director's on line 2.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
I got some Kamala on the bottom of my shoe.
You know what? I could just do this.
And you know what an ego let down for Kamala. The crowd is all pumped up for Beyonce.
Yeah.
They're not even there for her.
No, they're not even there for her. They want to see Beyonce.
Best they could do is a couple songs from Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Actually, the funny part is that they had Willie Nelson just ready. Now, you can't get two different artists between Beyonce and Willie Nelson. I mean, they are a lot different.
I feel like Willie should have trolled the audience and got up there and strummed his guitar and been like, well, this ain't Texas.
I got a text. You guys, who do you think it's from? Oh, there we go. Ken Weaver. It's Weaves. And he does. He thanks brother. He says, thank you, Brother Dan. There you go. Thank you, Ken.
We're adding it to the hotkeys, Ken.
There you go. It's exactly right. Anyway,
we'll bring you back on this morning show.
I did love. And when she says, see you later. You heard this?
See you later. See you later.
And then Johnny had a great line. Said, yeah, she'll be saying that, or we'll be saying that to her when November 5th comes around.
Honestly.
So there you go.
See you around.
Yep. Starting
bye now.
Starting Wednesday, I'm going to be telling her, see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. I have tissue.
That's exactly right.
For you and Martha.
Let's see here. An NFL player crashed the interview with a Trump hat. We saw that. You saw that, right? So there's an interview going on. It's on, I don't know what.
Sunday Night Football on NBC.
Was that on Sunday Night Football? Mm-hmm. So big interview after the game.
Points in the first half. What was said during halftime? Hey, all right. Nick Bosa with a message there.
So Nick Bosa has a mega hat on, and he crashes the interview. Now, the thing that I love is everybody starts laughing.
Yep.
Like, everybody's in on it. So I think you're right. I mean, Trump has definitely won the culture.
Oh, he's won the culture war tenfold.
There was another moment, and I don't know what game it was. I saw it in passing on social media, but a football player scored a touchdown, and he lifted up his shirt, and he had a white T-shirt underneath, and it said Trump MAGA.
I love it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
With all the good news, though, we can't get complacent.
No.
We have 1 week left.
Yes.
I've been saying on my show, you got to make phone calls, call your friends, and then people tell me that I don't have anybody to call. That's what they say. I don't have anybody to call. Well, there's a story going viral on Twitter. This guy, he didn't have anybody to call either. So he volunteered to phone bank for Harris Waltz. And he got a list of Harris Waltz phone numbers.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
And he's been calling them and telling them to vote for Trump.
I love it. All hands on deck, baby.
So I would just say to anybody listening, if you don't have somebody to call, you could always volunteer for Harris Waltz and get a list of numbers from them.
Do you think
Have some fun.
Do you think if I called the local Democrats and I walked in and volunteered on the phone bank, do you think they'd like recognize us?
Yeah.
I don't think they would. I think that'd be funny.
So.
I don't think they would recognize us.
I don't think they would. No, I don't think they would.
They probably check your voter status before they allow you to hit their phone bank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, did you guys hear Loomis shanking the national anthem? Have you heard this? You guys heard this?
No.
So this was on a presidential debate, and Loomis did the national anthem, but she failed epically.
Can I go back? Can I go back, please?
Oh, geez.
Can I go back? Can I go back, please?
What time is she checking into rehab? Because isn't that what happened the last time somebody messed up the anthem?
The best part is when they tell her, no, we can't go back. We're live. Listen.
Can I go back? Can I go back, please?
She just,
I got too nervous.
But she picks it up and she's really good at the end.
Yeah. Still there. Oh, say does that.
Well, sort of. Maybe not.
That
hurts. That's actually her crying.
For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
So then they gave her. It's like,
boy,
please clap.
that you know what that was. That sound at the end was like Johnny and Joan when I walk into the other room. Hey, how was that show today?
She actually apologized and said her family was watching, especially her dad, and she feels terrible.
And
about it.
her dad is a veteran. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
And
that's
actually
a hard song to sing.
I actually feel bad for her, to be honest with you. I feel bad for her because stuff happens. And I guess there was maybe some technical stuff behind the scenes. I really have no idea. But how you cannot know that you're live is, I don't understand that one.
No.
Who do you think was harder on themselves for the weekend they've had, Loomis or Kamala?
Kamala. I'd be willing to bet that Kamala made everybody else around her pay.
Oh, I bet she did too.
It was a don't look the general in the eyes kind of day.
It's like, Doug, find something to do this weekend.
So listen,
on the couch.
So listen, when Johnny and Joan, when I make mistakes on the show,
Can I go back? Can I go back, please?
that's what I'm going to say.
We're going to tell you no.
Dun, 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 dun.
You're gonna
Can I go back? Can I go back, please?
You're gonna be like, no, Dan, we're live. What's wrong with you?
We're live, Dan.
Poor girl, she sounded like she was gonna cry.
Yeah, it did.
I feel bad for, and she did say when she realized how badly she shanked it,
I got too nervous.
that she dropped that into the middle of the song.
Well, in all fairness, that is a hard song to sing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it
is.
really is for a singer.
Well, I wouldn't know. I've never sung it. I mean, like that.
But I got to say, if you're a professional singer,
Yeah.
don't you practice before it and you nail it? And
but see, they're so used to studio tricks now that
Yep.
Unfortunately, live, there's no tricks. You've got to be.
It's exactly right.
Yep.
All right, very good. How'd you like the whole thing, the Rogan? What was the highlight of your weekend? The Rogan or the Madison Square Garden rally?
I think the Rogan stuff was pretty cool. I mean, it's the equivalent of what, like $100 million ad buy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then the clips and the views that are happening, plus the pressure it puts on Kamala to not do it. It's just, it's great all around. Madison Square Garden was unbelievable, and we're going to cover all that on the show today. I don't know. Do you think New York is in play when you see that? I see people go, New York is in play.
I don't believe that New York is in play. I don't. But from a narrative standpoint, for Donald Trump to get 20,000 people inside and then all those people outside.
There were like 70,000 outside.
Right. I mean, it's a very big deal. It is a very big deal. And so for, I think Jonathan Karl said it best when he was talking to George Stephanopoulos.
Look, I was there for about 6 hours yesterday. First thing I've got to say, Madison Square Garden was packed. People waited hours to get in. They sat through hour after hour of this rally. They were fervent in their devotion to all things Trump. Trump has created a movement. There is no doubt. I cannot think of another Republican figure of my lifetime who could have come into a Democratic city like New York and put together anything like that.
So for Trump to be able to do that, I think is a big deal, and that will rattle the Democrats, whether or not New York is in play or not.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Now, I didn't realize Nazi rallies were so inclusive. I saw Jews, I saw Arabs, I saw black people. It was, really big tent Nazi policies is what they're going for.
Unbelievable. All right, very good. Chris Hand is coming up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. $8:57, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Friends, get in the fight. We don't have to wait until November to start taking our country back. We can get in the fight now with Coin, the conservatives' credit card. Now, instead of funneling millions of dollars to the left, like other cards, Coin advances conservative values and charities. Earn cash back while fighting back. Apply now at coin.com. The spelling is important. COIGN, coin.com. That is coin.com. Terms apply. Go to coin.com/disclosures for full details. Coin, your conservative values credit card.